Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. City. My Baba is a farmer. Chapter 21. Evening. Full moon shines. In Lu Xin's room. At last the prince's love broke the magic, Snow White was saved, and the princess and the prince lived happily ever after. Lu Qing leaned back against the head of the bed and whispered the story of Snow White, but when the story was finished, Lu Qing found that Lu Xin had already fallen asleep with her head tilted, and she shook her head with a smile. Afterwards, he straightened Lu Xin's leaning body, brought the quilt over to cover her, and set the air conditioner to sleep mode. Lu Qing turned off the lights and exited Lu Xin's room lightly. When they came to the living room, Xiaobai and Xiaohe, who were lying on the kennel they bought today, saw Lu Qing come out. They ran over and rubbed their heads on Lu Qing's calf affectionately. However, Lu Qing has no time to play with these two little guys for the time being. Lu Qing is now thinking about what happened to the four koi in the space. After all, it has been put in for several hours. Enter. Thinking of this, Lu Qing's mind moved, and he immediately entered the portable space. When he saw Lu Qing disappear out of thin air, Xiaobai and Xiaohe were startled, widened his eyes and dared not move. Look at where Lu Qing disappeared. Fortunately it didn't get bigger. At this time, in the space, Lu Qing was standing by the pool. Seeing the crystal clear water, four koi are swimming happily, the body did not become crazy because of absorbing the pool water, could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. After all, plants can grow wildly because of the continuous watering of the pool. Lu Qing was afraid that these few koi could live directly in the pool water, and they would not be bigger than whales, but fortunately, the worried situation did not happen. Come on, red and white, come and eat. The relieved Lu Qing didn't care whether the red and white koi female fish in the water could hear him or not. He immediately scooped up a bowl of bait and called out. As for the name, Lu Qing thought red and white sounded good, even though it was a koi carp. The name of the breed. Wow! Hearing Lu Qing's call, the original red and white koi female fish on the bottom of the water, like a psychic, swung her tail violently, and quickly came to Lu Qing, causing waves of water waves. Haha! So good, come and eat. Seeing that the female red and white koi fish came to him like an obedient child, Lu Qing hurriedly dumped the bait in his hand and said with a smile. The three of you also come and eat together. Lu Qing continued after seeing the red and white koi females eating. Soon, the other three koi also swam to Lu Qing obediently and ate together obediently. Then you should eat well, I should go out too. Touching the red and white smooth heads, Lu Qing scooped them another bowl of bait and said. Lu Qing immediately stood up and walked to the watermelon field. When he checked it, he saw huge green watermelons lying on the ground, a scene of a bumper harvest. It will be available for sale tomorrow. Smelling the unique melon scent of watermelon and seeing the vines that are starting to grow old, Lu Qing knew that the watermelon in front of him had begun to ripen. After watching the watermelon, Lu Qing then looked at the hundreds of ginseng plants, but the branches and leaves of the ginseng did not change much, and just grew quietly like that. As for the remaining open space, Lu Qing hadn't figured out what to do with it for the time being. After taking a look, Lu Qing exited the space and went to sleep. The next day, morning, kindergarten gate. Baba, goodbye, Lu Xin said. Well, Lu Qing nodded and said, go in. However, Lu Xin was not in a hurry to enter the kindergarten, but turned to Xiaobai and Xiaohe who were squatting in front of him and said earnestly, Xiaobai and Xiaohe, you two should listen to Baba's words. Wong wong, wong wong. When the two little guys, Xiaobai and Xiaohe, heard it, they immediately shook their heads and waved their tails, saying that they knew it. Haha, then I'll go in. Seeing Xiaobai and Xiaohe's performance, Lu Xin smiled happily, and then walked into the kindergarten with a school bag on his back. Come on, let's get to work too. After seeing Lu Xin entering the kindergarten, Lu Qing drove away with Xiaobai and Xiaohe and started a new day of selling watermelons. Go all the way. Come down, Xiaobai Xiaohe. After driving for nearly an hour, Lu Qing arrived at the destination, parked the car, opened the door and got off, and then hugged Xiaobai and Xiaohe. The place that Lu Qing came to is the wealthy area where he sold a truckload of watermelons in less than half a day last time. Seeing the bright sun overhead and people coming and going on the street, Lu Qing leaned back on the car, waiting for customers to come to the door, while Xiaohe and Xiaobai lay quietly beside his feet. Yeah, boy, you're finally here. Lu Qing hadn't waited for 2 or 3 minutes when an aunt who was dragging a grocery shopping trailer saw him. She was surprised at first, and then complained. "You don't even know, young man, my 94-year-old man ate the watermelon you sold, and he really can't forget it, but it has caused a lot of trouble for our family." It turned out that the aunt in front of me was one of the customers who bought Lu Qing watermelon a few days ago. Unexpectedly, after buying it back, the 94-year-old man in the family fell in love with this watermelon as soon as he ate it. He also said that after eating this watermelon, everyone became stronger and more energetic. But unfortunately, my aunt only bought half of the watermelon to go home, so I ate the watermelon every 2 days. Without the watermelon, the old man started to lose his temper and didn't even eat. I was so frightened that I immediately jumped. After all, the magic capital is so big, so I went there to find Lu Qing, so almost at home and abroad, no matter whether it is expensive or cheap, as long as it is a watermelon, their family will buy it back and give it to the old man to taste. It's a pity that Lousy spit it out after a bite, and said they were liars, which made the family panic. It's just that Lu Qing doesn't know all this. "What's the matter, Auntie?" Listening to the complaints of the aunt in front of him, Lu Qing was a little confused. "Hey, it's all right. After all, it's a private matter of the family, and I can't go into details." Auntie waved her hand quickly and said, "I'm here to buy watermelons, but this time I want to buy a few more." The main old man's temper is really scary, so this time he has to buy a few more and go back. Another reason is that their family also wants to try this watermelon. Is it really so delicious? After all, last time half of the watermelon went into the old man's stomach. "Auntie, do you buy so much? Can you finish eating at home?" Lu Qing's eyes widened as she watched the aunt pick nearly 10 watermelons, and asked in shock. "You must know that a watermelon is at least 50 kilograms, 10 is 500 kilograms, and Lu Qing's Wuling Rongguang small card can only drag 2,000 kilograms when fully loaded, which means that the aunt in front of me bought a quarter of it directly. How can Lu Qing not let Lu Qing was shocked? What kind of family is this?" "You don't have to worry about it," the aunt replied calmly. After choosing the watermelon, the aunt called the family and asked them to drag it back. Only less than 10 minutes. A Cayenne arrived first in a hurry. After seeing the car, Lu Qing hurriedly weighed the watermelon chosen by her aunt and put it in the trunk. When I was busy, a Mercedes-Benz GL SUV and an Audi Q8 arrived in a hurry at the same time, all to drag the watermelon. When Lu Qing saw it, he thought, it really isn't an ordinary family. Weighing, recording, busy for more than 10 minutes, Lu Qing put the last watermelon on the back seat of Dabin, closed the car door, then took out the data just recorded, and said to the aunt beside him, "Auntie, look next, these 10 watermelons weigh a total of 548 jin, and I will charge you 10,960 yuan. "No problem," Auntie nodded. "I'll scan the code on my phone and transfer it to you." "Okay, Auntie, the money has been received," Lu Qing said with a smile when he saw the money on his phone. After adding Lu Qing's WeChat account, the auntie left in the car. Seeing this, Lu Qing quickly waved his hand and said, "Auntie, please walk slowly." With Auntie taking the lead, especially by posting photos of Lu Qing's watermelons to the owner group, the rest of Lu Qing's watermelons were directly wrapped up by the owners of Auntie's community. Without him, the main reason is that Lu Qing's watermelon is so delicious. Especially the owner who also bought Lu Qing watermelon a few days ago, saw in the group that Lu Qing is coming again. One by one, they hurried over with small trailers and directly surrounded Lu Qing. 1, 2, 3. The watermelons in Lu Qing's car were dwindling rapidly. At this moment, a black worker also heard the news and rushed over, parked not far behind Lu Qing's car, but the owner did not get off. An hour later, the 1,500 caddies of watermelon left in Lu Qing's car were sold out. Not only that, Lu Qing owes nearly 1,000 caddies of watermelon. If it wasn't for Lu Qing's sworn guarantee that everyone would get the watermelon before lunch, the crowd would not have dispersed. Seeing that everyone had left, Lu Qing was also relieved. Grumbling. After being busy for a long time, Lu Qing was sweating and his mouth was dry. Lu Qing took out a bottle filled with water from the space pool from the car and took a few sips. "You two little fellows, come have some too." Immediately, seeing Xiao Bai and Xiao He panting with their tongues stretched out from the heat, Lu Qing hurriedly gave them something to drink. After drinking, the energetic Lu Qing said, "Let's go, Xiao Bai Xiaohei, let's go back to replenishing the watermelon." With that said, get ready to drive away. But at this moment, a middle-aged man in his 40s came to Lu Qing and said with a smile on his face, "Hello, little brother, can I delay you for a few minutes? I want to chat with you. Let's talk." Lu Qing looked at the strange middle-aged man in front of him and was very puzzled. What to talk about? It's too noisy outside, it's inconvenient to talk about it. The middle-aged man sincerely invited. "Let's go, little brother, talk to me in my car." Saying that, the middle-aged man pointed to his car. Lu Qing followed the direction of the middle-aged man's finger. It turned out to be not far behind his car's butt. He didn't know when a black car parked. Immediately, Lu Qing followed the middle-aged man to his car. After entering the car, the middle-aged man introduced himself to Lu Qing. "Hello, little brother, let me introduce myself first, I'm Li Tian from Tiantian Orchard. Orchard every day." Li Tian. Hearing this name, Lu Qing always felt very familiar, having seen it there. "Isn't there a fruit shop called Tiantian Orchard outside the community where I live?" I said. "Why it feels so familiar." Suddenly, Lu Qing suddenly remembered the name of a chain fruit store that he passed by outside the community where he was renting now. Not only that, he also went to buy fruit there. Orchard every day. Li Tian, Tian Tian, Li Tian. Lu Qing, who gradually understood what was going on, asked tentatively, "Brother Li, don't you mean that you are the one who opened this Tiantian orchard?" "Haha, yes," Li Tianyi laughed and praised. "Little brother, you are really smart." "Then what do you want to talk to me about?" Lu Qing asked cautiously. After all, he and Li Tian, the owner of Tiantian Orchard in front of him, are completely strangers. He suddenly came to the door, making Lu Qing to be more vigilant. "Relax, little brother, I just want to chat with you, talk about cooperation, nothing else." Li Tian smiled. "Cooperation? What cooperation?" Lu Qing was a little puzzled. "It's like this, little brother." Li Tiandao. "By the way, I haven't asked my little brother your name." Lu Qing. Lu Qing replied. "That's right, brother Lu, you know that although I'm in the fruit business, I rarely bring the company's fruit home. My mother usually buys the fruit in my house." Li Tian explained slowly. "A few days ago, my mother just happened to buy a watermelon from you to go home. I went back from get off work that day and accidentally ate a piece of it. It was really delicious. You know, I made it. After so many years in the fruit business, I have eaten countless varieties of watermelons, and that watermelon that day was the best watermelon I have ever eaten in my life. So, I came here today, and I wanted to talk to you about cooperation. By the way, the reason why I know you are here is because Aunt Yi, the one who started selling watermelons at the beginning, and the uncles and aunts in the back, we all it's from a community, haha, you say it's a coincidence, fate." Li Tian finally laughed. Of course, not everything Li Tian said was the truth. For example, after eating a piece of watermelon sold by Lu Qing at that time, the savvy Li Tian smelled the huge profit and took the remaining watermelon back to the company, called the company for all purchases, and asked if anyone had eaten this watermelon. When everyone shook their heads, Li Tian asked them to check all the fruit wholesale markets in Modu, and asked all the company's partners, but no one knew the source of the watermelon. Not only that, but Li Tian also asked the company's people to take a little watermelon for testing. He wanted to find out why the watermelon was so delicious, but the results surprised him. For example, zero pollution, zero chemical residues, pure natural organic watermelon, several times higher vitamin and protein than ordinary watermelon, and other nutrients. When he saw this report, Li Tian wanted to buy out all the watermelons immediately and sell them himself. "It's just that I couldn't find the source of this watermelon. Everything was on paper, so Li Tian was waiting. In his opinion, this watermelon should have been grown by Lu Qing himself and sold everywhere. The mobile vendors like to choose a few fixed ones, placed to sell." Unexpectedly, after waiting for a few days, Lu Qing never came back, so Li Tian gave up. After all, it is possible that Lu Qing has already sold out the watermelons, because now the midsummer is the peak season for watermelon sales. But I didn't expect that when I was resting at home today, I didn't want to read the news of the owner group, and saw that Lu Qing had appeared again, so I hurriedly drove over and wanted to talk about cooperation with Lu Qing. How do you want to cooperate, Brother Li? After listening to Li Tian's remarks, Lu Qing, who was dubious, asked. I just don't know, Brother Lu, how many watermelons can you provide here? Li Tian didn't answer directly, but instead asked. It's like this. I have nearly 1,000 directly operated chain fruit stores in the capital cities of the country, so I want a relatively large amount. If you have a relatively small amount, I hope I can buy them all. That's it. Lu Qing listened, thought for a while, and said, Brother Li, you can buy it out, but can you really eat so much watermelon? Don't worry, Brother Lu, you have to believe in my strength. Li Tian patted his chest and vowed. Okay then. Seeing Li Tian's confident look, Lu Qing nodded and said, I still have nearly 30 million kilograms here. If you are sure to buy it out, I won't ask for a high premium. Give you. Hiss. As soon as Li Tian heard this number, he took a deep breath and said, Brother Lu, you have grown so much. In his opinion, if Lu Qing can have hundreds of thousands of kilograms of goods, it is amazing, but he did not expect it to far exceed his expectations. In fact, this number was just made up by Lu Qing. After all, there is space with you. You can plant as many watermelons as you want, but now suddenly Li Tian came to ask for cooperation. Lu Qing just thought about it. Sell them all to him. After all, the midsummer is only 2 months old. Okay, 30 million caddies is 30 million caddies, I want all of them. Although a little surprised, Li Tian said simply after he recovered. You must know that Li Tian has nearly 1,000 fruit shops, and an average of 30 million caddies is only 30,000 caddies. Moreover, Li Tian also has sales channels for hotels, clubs, restaurants, etc. that have been cooperating all the year round, so 30 million caddies are for him. It's easy to digest. After talking for a few more minutes, Li Tian looked at the time and said, How about this, Brother Lu, it's almost noon, I invite you to have a meal, and then go to our company to sign a contract. Sample. I'm afraid it won't work. Lu Qing shook his head and explained, I promised the aunts and uncles in your community that I would deliver the watermelons to them before lunch, so I have to deliver the watermelons now, otherwise you can't scold me. Ha ha. Li Tianyi laughed and said, okay. Then, Lu Qing and Li Tian agreed that after delivering the watermelon and having lunch, Lu Qing went directly to Li Tian's company to find him. Immediately, Lu Qing opened the door and got out of the car and continued to deliver watermelons, while Li Tian drove away and returned to the company to prepare the contract. Afternoon. Li Tian Company Meeting Room. Brother Lu, look at the content of this contract. If there is no problem, just sign your name. Li Tian handed the contract to Lu Qing. Lu Qing immediately took over the contract and looked at it carefully. Lu Qing looked at it in detail, especially the price, payment method, and time. Lu Qing sold the watermelon to Li Tian at a unit price of 22 per kilogram. As for the payment method and time, Lu Qing asked for transfer and payment once every 2 weeks. Paid within the month. As for the delivery time, Lu Qing requested that it be in the early morning, when Lu Xin was sleeping. This is the result that Lu Qing just came here to discuss with Li Tian. Okay. The contract is fine, I'll sign it. After carefully browsing the contract in hand, it was confirmed that there was no problem. Lu Qing signed his name on it and pressed the red fingerprint on it. Haha, happy contract, Brother Lu. After seeing Lu Qing sign the contract, Li Tian laughed. After laughing, Li Tian asked, By the way, Brother Lu, where is your watermelon warehouse? Storehouse. After leaving Li Tian's company, Lu Qing took out his mobile phone and searched for a suitable warehouse in Kimodu. Just after Li Tianyi asked, Lu Qing remembered that he had to build a warehouse, otherwise so many watermelons could not be piled directly outside. Moreover, the first batch of watermelons will be delivered in the early morning, so just after making a nonsense excuse, Lu Qing hurriedly came out of Li Tian's company to find a warehouse. These warehouses are not suitable. Lu Qing carefully looked through the warehouse information searched on the mobile phone, but these warehouses were either too expensive, or the leases were too long, and the management and control were very strict. Lu Qing shook his head. Lu Qing's requirements for the warehouse are very simple, the first is cheap, and the second is short-term rental. Well, I'm looking for it carefully. After arriving in the car, Lu Qing continued to look down. After all, the magic capital is so big and there are so many warehouses. Lu Qing believes that he can find something that meets his requirements. As for Xiaobai and Xiaohe, they silently lay on the co-pilot's seat, staring at Lu Qing. Donghai Logistics Company, Limited is in a hurry to deploy a large warehouse of 20,000 square meters. The price is negotiable. We accept short-term rentals starting from January. The location is Weihai Road Youth Logistics Park. Contact Manager Huang, call 184.258. After browsing dozens of warehouse information, Lu Qing suddenly found one that felt more suitable, and immediately called Lu Qing according to the contact information on the advertisement. As soon as the bell rang, the phone was connected, and Lu Qing immediately explained his purpose. Okay, then you wait for me at the gate of the logistics park, and I'll be there right away. After talking for 2 minutes and making an appointment to meet, Lu Qing hung up the phone and hurriedly started the car, ready to go. The car went all the way. More than 40 minutes later, Lu Qing drove to the gate of the Youth Logistics Park. Is this person Manager Huang? At the gate of the park, Lu Qing looked at a middle-aged man in a white shirt, trousers, leather shoes, a pair of thin-rimmed glasses, and a file bag in his hand. Lu Qing saw that the middle-aged man in front of him was a little uncertain, and quickly took out his mobile phone and called Manager Wang, who had just contacted him. Then Lu Qing saw the middle-aged man in front of him preparing to answer the phone. Immediately, Lu Qing hung up the phone, drove the car to the middle-aged man, honked the horn, and introduced himself. Hello, Manager Wang, I'm Lu Qing who just contacted you. Hello, Mr. Lu. Manager Wang replied quickly with a smile on his face. You can just park the car at the door against the wall, because the warehouse we're looking at is the door. Okay. Lu Qing nodded in agreement and parked the car. After parking the car, Lu Qing opened the door and got out of the car. As for Xiaobai and Xiaohe, Lu Qing also took them down. After all, they had been in the car for so long. Unexpectedly, Mr. Lu likes puppies so much, and he always takes them with him. Manager Huang saw Xiaobai and Xiaohidao following Lu Qing. It's mainly because there's no one at home, so let them stay at home, I'm afraid they'll be gone when I go home. Lu Qing explained, although Xiaobai and Xiaohe wouldn't do that. Yes. When Manager Huang heard this, he laughed and said, please come with me here, Mr. Lu. Immediately followed Manager Wang to the warehouse. Please take a look, Mr. Lu, this warehouse has an area of 20,000 square meters and can meet most of your needs. After arriving at the warehouse, Manager Wang introduced. Yeah, Lu Qing nodded. Looking at the huge warehouse in front of him, Lu Qing thought it was okay, and immediately asked, Manager Wang, how do you calculate the rent for this warehouse? That's right. Our current rent for 1 square meter of this warehouse is 25 yuan a month. Of course, the longer the rent is, the rent can be negotiated. That's 250,000 rent a month. Lu Qing did some calculations, feeling a bit expensive. Manager Wang, why is there still a surveillance camera installed in the warehouse? As soon as he looked up, Lu Qing found a surveillance camera spinning above his head. Manager Wang replied, Mr. Lu, the installation of surveillance cameras is also for the safety of everyone's property. Is that so? Lu Qing pondered and asked, Manager Wang, does your company have any other vacant warehouses for rent, because the price of this warehouse is high, and secondly, I plan to rent it for only 1 month. Anything else? Manager Wang listened to Lu Qing's answer and thought about it for a while, then his eyes lit up, and then he answered with a bit of bitterness, yes, but it's too broken, I'm afraid you won't like it. Where? Take me to see it. Lu Qing hurriedly said, it's good to break it, after all, the warehouse is a thing to hide from people's ears. Let's go, I'll take you there. Manager Wang said, just on the edge of the inner ring elevated. Afterwards, Manager Wang led the way, and Lu Qing drove behind him. In 20 minutes, Lu Qing followed Manager Wang to the destination. The dilapidated courtyard wall and 2 mottled and rusted iron gates, Manager Wang temporarily opened the gates, only to see 6 huge warehouses sitting inside. How is it, Mr. Lu? I told you, this warehouse is very broken. Manager Wang said, standing beside Lu Qing. But Lu Qing didn't take it seriously. Instead, the more he looked at it, the more he liked it. It was dilapidated and empty, with no property security, and it was relatively close to home. After a brief look, Lu Qing said, "Manager Wang, that's all, let's sign the contract." Bar. Ah, when Manager Wang heard this, he was immediately surprised. "You really don't think about it anymore, Mr. Lu?" Then Manager Wang reminded, "This warehouse doesn't even have a gatekeeper. If the stored items are missing, our company will not be responsible." When Lu Qing heard it, he waved his hand and said, "Don't think about it, it's the warehouse. What you said can be written into the contract later." Okay. Seeing what Lu Qing said, Manager Wang nodded and agreed. "That's fine, Mr. Lu, you and I can go back to the company to sign the contract." Immediately, Lu Qing drove away with Manager Wang and went to his company to sign a contract. The warehouse is done. In the car, Lu Qing breathed a sigh of relief when he saw the warehouse lease contract just signed in his hand. The content of the contract is that Lu Qing leased these 6 warehouses with a total area of 30,000 square meters at a price of 12 yuan per square meter per month for a period of 1 month. By the way, I haven't sent the location of the warehouse to Brother Li. Thinking of this, Lu Qing quickly put the contract aside, took out his mobile phone and sent Li Tian the location information of the warehouse. Okay, now it's time to buy watermelon seeds. After sending Li Tian the location, Lu Qing then started the car to buy watermelon seeds. After all, tens of millions of kilograms of watermelons require a huge amount of seeds, and the 20 packets of seeds that Lu Qing bought earlier were not enough. Immediately, Lu Qing drove the car directly to the leisure flower shop where he bought the seeds last time. Half an hour later, Lu Qing came to the door of the leisure flower shop, parked the car, and then pushed the door and walked in. "Yo, welcome, little brother, what do you want to buy today?" Seeing Lu Qing walk into the shop owner saw Lu Qing, the big buyer, and quickly got up, smiling and welcoming him loudly. The last time Lu Qing came to buy so many seeds, he was very impressed. "I'm here to buy watermelon seeds this time." Lu Qing explained his purpose directly. "Watermelon seeds, no problem, how many bags do you want to buy this time?" The shop owner turned around and prepared to go to the back warehouse to get it for Lu Qing. "Boss, wait a second." Lu Qing stopped him quickly and said, "Don't worry, because this time I bought a little more." "A little too much." The shop owner turned around and wondered, "How much is that?" "I'm going to buy 4,500 packs this time," Lu Qing said solemnly. 4,500 packs. My God. The shop owner looked at Lu Qing in stunned eyes and said, "You actually bought so many?" "Yes, that's the number," Lu Qing affirmed. Lu Qing made a simple calculation on the way here. The output of 1 mu of land in the space is 20,000 caddies, and 1 mu of land needs 3 bags of seeds. Lu Qing shipped 30 million caddies to Lishan Company, which is the amount needed. Seed. Immediately, the shop owner, who came back to his senses, saw that Lu Qing was not joking, and asked with some doubts. "I said, little brother, you went there to pack such a large piece of land to grow watermelons, and it's already early August, so your watermelons are a little late." However, Lu Qing did not answer his question, but instead asked, "Boss, do you have so many watermelon seeds here?" Yes. Seeing Lu Qing was a little impatient, the shop owner didn't ask any more questions, and quickly replied flatly, "However, I only have more than 1,000 packs for you here, and you can pick up the rest tomorrow at noon." These more than 1,000 packs of watermelon seeds were bought and stored by the shop owner last year after seeing the price increase. They planned to sell them for 2 or 3 years. After all, who in the city would buy so many to plant them? I didn't expect them to be sold today. Okay. When Lu Qing heard it, he nodded and agreed without bargaining. Okay, little brother. After clapping the dust on his hands and putting more than 1,000 packets of watermelon seeds on Lu Qing's car, the shop owner said. Yeah. Lu Qing glanced at it, nodded and said, "I'll transfer the money to you." After paying, Lu Qing immediately opened the car door and got in the car, ready to go home. Because Lu Qing just checked the time and found that Lu Xin was about to finish school, so he had to go back and go to the warehouse after dinner, and Lu Xin fell asleep. Walk slowly, little brother. The shop owner who received the money saw that Lu Qing was leaving, and waved quickly with a smile. Then Lu Qing started the car and left, and the shop owner happily returned to his shop, calculating how much he earned from this order, and contacting the source of supplies Lu Qing needed tomorrow. Night, 21:30. The full moon is high, and the stars are shining. After Lu Xin fell asleep, Lu Qing drove to the warehouse at high speed. Come down, you two little guys. Came to the warehouse, parked the car. Lu Qing hugged Xiaobai and Xiaohe. Although they had been in the car for almost a whole day during the day, Xiaobai and Xiaohe were a little sluggish, but after dinner and drinking the pool of water Lu Qing took out of the space, the two little guys are now alive and well again. Come on, come in, Lu Qing said, and then walked to the warehouse, and when Xiaobai and Xiaohe heard it, they walked in front of them shaking their heads. In 2 hours, they will come to pick up the goods. After entering the warehouse, Lu Qing checked the time, and it was less than 3 hours before 0. Enter. With a thought, Lu Qing brought Xiaobai and Xiaohe into the portable space. Let's start planting. After entering the space, Lu Qing began to grow watermelons. Although the time flow in the space is 30 times that of the outside world, 30 hours have passed inside, and only 1 hour has passed outside, but after all, 6 million caddies are to be delivered tonight, and Lu Qing has to be busy. After tearing open the package, he poured the watermelon seeds into his hands. Lu Qing spread them evenly on the black soil in front of him. After spreading 3 packets of seeds in a row, Lu Qing picked up the bucket that had been prepared and came to the pool. Carry a bucket full of water and pour it over it. I saw the watermelon seedlings emerge from the soil in an instant, then grew up, blossomed and fruited, and the watermelon the size of the little finger grew rapidly like air, and then the vines grew old, and the watermelons fell from the vines. Finally, Lu Qing put ripe watermelons are transported outside and stored in the warehouse. Then kept repeating. An hour passed. 2 hours passed. No, I'm too tired. Sweaty and panting, Lu Qing put down the watermelon in his hand, sat on the ground with his buttocks, and took a rest. The main thing was to keep pumping water and carrying the watermelon out. It was really exhausting. If only you could control the water and watermelons. Wiping the sweat off his forehead, Lu Qing looked at the pool of water and watermelon in front of him and thought. Just then, a miraculous scene happened. When Lu Qing was thinking about controlling the pool of water and watermelon in front of him, they all floated in front of Lu Qing. What's going on? Lu Qing stared at everything in front of him, dumbfounded. Could it be that my thoughts just now control them? Lu Qing recalled the thoughts just now. Down, then control them downward, while Tan Shui and Zigwa follow Lu Qing's thoughts. Xiaobai and Xiaohe come here. Then Lu Qing experimented with 2 more guys. Xiaobai and Xiaohe, who were running around in the space, instantly vacated uncontrollably and came to Lu Qing. After continuous experiments, Lu Qing found that everything in the space was under his control, which made Lu Qing exclaimed in surprise. Then am I the god in this dimension? Rise. Knowing that he is the god of space and can dominate all things in space, Lu Qing immediately planted watermelons frantically, and saw a watermelon seed floating in the air under the control of Lu Qing's thoughts, and then tossed it evenly, on black soil. Then Lu Qing manipulated the water in the pool to pour down like a light rain, and saw that the watermelon seeds just planted came into contact with the water in the space pool, and instantly took root, sprouted, grew, blossomed and matured. Finally, Lu Qing thought about it and moved all the ripe watermelons to the outside warehouse for storage. As for the vines and leaves of the watermelon, after Lu Qing finished picking the ripe watermelons, they withered and rotted automatically and disappeared, and the land was restored to its original state in an instant. And just now, I could only plant 1 mu of land repeatedly. Now, all the land except for the ginseng, which is about 4.5 mu, has been used by Lu Qing. Therefore, Lu Qing's efficiency has been directly improved several times, and this is only controlled by his few thoughts. Afterwards, Lu Qing kept repeating the operation just now. Time passed by minute. 2 hours later. Finally it's all planted. After seeing the last few bags of watermelon seeds and planting tens of thousands of caddies of watermelon, Lu Qing breathed a sigh of relief. Although the shipment volume to be delivered today in the contract has long been reached, Lu Qing thought about it and planted all the more than 1,000 bags of seeds he bought. Then he came to the pool and fed the 4 koi fish such as red and white. Only then did Lu Qing think about it. He took all the watermelons that had just been planted, as well as Xiaobai and Xiaohe, and exited the space. As for the water in the pool, Lu Qing found that it was inexhaustible and there was always so much. It's only been 10 minutes now. After exiting the space, Lu Qing took out his mobile phone and saw that although he had been in the space for 4 or 5 hours, the outside world had only passed 10 minutes. I should have come later if I knew it earlier. After seeing the time displayed on the phone, Lu Qing felt a little regretful. Why don't you urge them to come and drag them away in advance? Thinking of this, Lu Qing hurriedly called Li Tian's phone. After all, if he could go back to rest early, he would go back to rest early. Then, the call was connected. At the same time, the imperial capital Yanjing, in the banquet hall of a 5-star hotel, a new product exhibition and tasting conference was being held at this time, and the protagonists of the banquet were huge watermelons with emerald green skins. The planner and organizer of this event is Li Tian's Tiantian Orchard Company. The watermelons displayed in front of us were also obtained after signing the contract with Lu Qing this afternoon, and then they were transported to the imperial capital by air without stopping. After all, after purchasing 30 million caddies of watermelon, Li Tian felt that he had to sell it quickly. Although I have to admit that Lu Qing's watermelon is super delicious, it is the best fruit, but after all, there are still too few people who know it, so Li Tian asked the company to quickly plan this event. The guests invited today are the purchasing managers and chefs of famous chain-star hotels, Western restaurants, clubs, and private restaurants in the imperial capital. They are all buyers who have cooperated with Tiantian Orchard for many years. After seeing that almost everyone came, Li Tian came to the stage, gave a simple speech, and then focused on introducing today's protagonist. I believe everyone has seen it. That's right. The giant emerald watermelons in front of you are the protagonists of today. It is a blockbuster product launched by our company. In fact, all the guests present have already seen it. After all, it is so conspicuously placed and the watermelon with its emerald-like skin is the first time everyone has seen it. Boss Li, you also introduced this watermelon. We also watched it and asked about the strong watermelon fragrance, but it's not interesting if you haven't eaten it. At this moment, a round-faced middle-aged man complained loudly. Haha, I'll be here soon, this watermelon is being cut into pieces at the back, Manager Yi. When Li Tian heard this, he immediately laughed. As soon as he finished speaking, he saw pieces of watermelon with bright red, plump, and even flesh cut into pieces, placed in a fruit plate, taken out, and distributed to the guests in front of them to eat. When everyone took the first bite, they felt the deliciousness of the watermelon fermented on their tongues, and they couldn't help but widen their eyes and couldn't believe it. Is this really a watermelon? In particular, Manager Yi, who just spoke up, immediately felt refreshed after taking the first bite of watermelon. Of course, all the guests present felt the same as Manager Yi. I eat watermelon here and there, it feels like eating a fairy fruit, it's really amazing. Seeing everyone's skeptical and amazed eyes, Li Tian laughed and said, everyone can rest assured that this is 100% watermelon, and I also have the corresponding chemical composition test report here. Then how much did you sell this watermelon, Boss Li? Someone asked out loud at this time. After all, this watermelon is so delicious and its nutrients are so high, the sales will definitely explode. Seeing that the highlight of this exhibition is coming, Li Tian replied in a deep voice, our company set the price of this jade watermelon for everyone present at 42 yuan per kilogram. After all, everyone has been a partner for so many years. The price is 46 yuan a pound. We have 500,000 kilograms of the first batch to Beijing, and we will give priority to meeting the reservations of everyone present. Li Tian continued. 500,000 caddies. Then we directly book 200,000 caddies from our hotel. The person who just asked the question preemptively booked. At this time, the guests who reacted quickly followed suit and said, our company also comes with 100,000 caddies. Our restaurant also ordered 50,000 caddies. We want all the rest of our company. Saying that, everyone said that the smell of gunpowder was getting stronger and stronger, and they immediately grabbed it. After all, the purchasing managers and chefs present have never eaten any kind of fruit, but this is the first time I have eaten such a delicious, fairy, watermelon. If you don't grab it, you're a fool. Crazy. Totally crazy. Seeing the chaos of everyone in the audience, Li Tian was immediately stunned, because everyone was so crazy. The pre-sale of watermelons completely exceeded his expectations. At this moment, the phone in Li Tian's pocket rang. Seeing that it was from Lu Qing, Li Tian picked it up quickly, and the more he heard Li Tian's face, the happier he was, because Lu Qing's side could not only deliver a few hours in advance but also deliver millions of kilograms more. At the end, Li Tian laughed and said, "Brother Lu, you don't even know, your watermelons are selling like crazy." As the watermelon crazy. After waking up in the morning, Lu Qing recalled what Li Tian said on the phone last night, but just after hanging up for a while, the consignment vehicles and loading personnel arranged by Li Tian's company came, and they were busy until 6 a.m. before returning. After sleeping for an hour, Lu Qing got up again to make breakfast for Lu Xin, then sent Lu Xin to school, and then returned. Lu Qing lay on the sofa to catch up again, and didn't wake up until now. Let's keep a low profile in the future. Recalling what Li Tian said on the phone last night, Lu Qing decided that this time it was a bit too flamboyant. After all, a single shipment of 30 million caddies of watermelons, and there is room for carry, it is very easy to make money. Get up. Watching the sun shine in through the window, leaving mottled light and shadow on the ground, Lu Qing took the mobile phone beside him and looked at it, and found that it was almost 10 o'clock, so he turned over and got up. Kakaka. Standing up, Lu Qing twisted his body from side to side, as well as his neck, and his joints suddenly rattled. It feels like I haven't run for several days, and my bones are a little rusted. These days after resignation, Lu Qing was driving most of the time without exercising. Lu Qing suddenly missed the days when he was a rider. Why don't you go and run now? Lu Qing thought in his mind that there was nothing to do now anyway. Yes, let's go. Thinking of this, Lu Qing immediately took action. Lu Qing didn't have professional running shoes, clothes and pants, but took out a pair of sneakers she used to wear when delivering food, put on a t-shirt and shorts she usually wears, and was ready to go out. Let's go, Xiaobai and Xiaohei, let's go out for a run. Lu Qing faced Xiaobai and Xiaogang at his feet. Xiaobai and Xiaohei have grown by several centimeters after being fed by Lu Qing in the past few days. Their bodies are no longer slender, and their hair is soft and shiny. When the two little guys heard that they could go out to play, they immediately shook their heads and waggled their tails with joy. Wang Wang called. Lu Qing opened the door. Xiaobai and Xiaohei rushed ahead and ran downstairs, while Lu Qing closed the door and followed behind. When he came downstairs, Lu Qing found that Xiaobai and Xiaohei were waiting for him at the door of the stairs, and quickly greeted them to follow him, and then walked out of the community. Then Lu Qing took Xiaobai and Xiaohei to the park, where these two little guys were born. The reason why they came here is mainly because there is a 6-kilometer-long rubber track in this man-made park, which runs around the park. Lock up. Xiaobai, Xiaohei, let's go, let's run. After doing a simple warm-up exercise, Lu Qing faced the little white gangster who was sniffing here and there on the grass beside him, then took a step, wiggled his arms, and ran. When Xiaobai and Xiaohei heard it, they hurriedly followed, speeding up and overtaking Lu Qing and running ahead. It was early 10 in the morning and the sky was bright and sunny. Ha! Ha! On the rubber track, Lu Qing's speed is not fast, it is completely jogging, and his breathing is also very regular. Why don't you hurry up? After running for 2 kilometers, Lu Qing, who had no feeling at all, doubled his speed. As for Xiaobai and Xiaohei, they ran ahead as if nothing happened. Time passed little by little. It's almost there, I can't run anymore. Running all the way, after 10 laps, Lu Qing felt that he couldn't run anymore, and then stopped slowly. I saw Lu Qing at this time, as if he had just been fished out of the pool. His whole body was soaked with sweat, and Xiaobai and Xiaohei on the side were not much better. They were opening their mouths and sticking out their tongues, breathing rapidly. Let's go home. After a simple stretch, Lu Qing took out his phone and checked the time. It was almost 11 o'clock, and he took Xiaobai and Xiaohei back home. After returning home, Lu Qing poured some space pool water for the two little guys, and then got into the bathroom to take a shower. It's so comfortable. A few minutes later, Lu Qing came out of the bathroom with a relaxed body and sighed. It seems that I have to go for a run every morning from now on. It's time to get the watermelon seeds. Afterwards, Lu Qing, who had changed into clean clothes, was about to go out to pick up the watermelon seeds he ordered yesterday. Speeding all the way, Lu Qing drove quickly to the entrance of the leisure flower shop. In the car, Lu Qing saw hundreds of saplings suddenly placed in front of the leisure flower shop, and the shop owner was watering them with a sad face. What's wrong? Seeing this, Lu Qing felt a little puzzled, and immediately parked the car, opened the door and got off. You're here, little brother. After seeing Lu Qing, the shop owner greeted listlessly, come on, come in with me, the seeds you ordered yesterday have been prepared for you. Even though it was fine yesterday, why did the shop owner become sad and sullen overnight, which made Lu Qing couldn't help asking, boss, what's the matter with you? Hey, the shop owner walking in front sighed and said, it's not all harmed by these saplings at the door. Then, the shop owner explained slowly, as you know, the scope of urbanization has become larger and larger in recent years, and many retired old ladies and grandfathers can't be idle and want to grow some flowers and plants. So 3 years ago, my friend and I rented a nursery in the suburbs to cultivate them, but I didn't expect that in the past 2 years, the competition in this industry is so fierce that my friend and I didn't make any money, and we even lost a little bit. Of course, it's not a big deal, but I didn't expect that we received a notice last night that all the land in our nursery base had been requisitioned, and we needed to build an expo center, and we had to move out within a month. You say this is not a scam? Quote. After a pause, the shop owner continued. You know, our nursery has nearly 100,000 flowers, plants and trees, and millions of dollars have been invested. When I heard the news last night, my friends and I were so anxious that we risked our lives overnight. I didn't sleep. Last night, I begged my father to tell my grandmother's phone call, and I finally dealt with half of it at a low price. My friend is still dealing with this matter in the nursery. As for you want to ask, why don't we find another place to move to continue planting? The main thing is that this thing is not profitable in the first place, so my friend and I thought about it and decided not to do it. Quote. The shop owner finally said. So this is all. After listening to the detailed explanation from the shop owner, Lu Qing nodded and understood. After all, this big summer is not the season for planting saplings at all, and the survival rate is low, so no one takes over. Looking at the small saplings under her feet that rolled up their leaves under the high temperature, Lu Qing couldn't help but ask, Boss, what kind of saplings are these? The shop owner replied, These are mainly saplings of Hainan Wanghuili and lobular red sandalwood. Hainan Wanghuili and lobular rosewood. When Lu Qing heard this, his face was full of question marks. Growing up in the countryside, Lu Qing saw trees like eucalyptus, pine, and locust most of the time. As for Hainan Wanghuili and lobular rosewood, this is the first time I have heard of it today, so I cannot avoid doubts. Ha ha. Seeing the confusion on Lu Qing's face, the shop owner laughed and said, Yes, most of these are saplings of Hainan Wanghuili and Shaoyi Zidin. Let me tell you, they are all royal family members in wood. Quote. Is there a royal family in the wood? When Lu Qing heard it, she was instantly happy. Of course, the wood is good and bad, expensive and cheap. Seeing Lu Qing smiling, the shop owner hurriedly blew his beard and stared. The Hainan Wanghuili and lobular red sandalwood in front of me are the best and most expensive woods. How much is the most expensive? As soon as he heard that it is the most expensive among the woods, Lu Qing immediately became interested and hurriedly asked. However, the shop owner did not answer this question directly, but slowly raised his left hand and asked Lu Qing, Do you know what this is? Lu Qing saw a string of golden and shiny bracelets on his left hand, and replied, Bracelets. Then do you know what material it is made of? The shop owner continued. Lu Qing shook his head. Seeing that Lu Qing is a pure rookie, he doesn't know anything about wood and bracelets. In addition, Lu Qing is the biggest buyer of his shop, and the shop owner is no longer hiding it, so he quickly said. To tell you the truth, little brother, the bracelet I'm wearing is made of Hainan Wanghuili. It cost 3,000 yuan to buy it 6 years ago. As for now, even if you spend 10,000 or 20,000 yuan, you can buy it. Not such an authentic bracelet. Hiss. Hearing the price mentioned by the shop owner, Lu Qing gasped for breath and stared intently at the bracelet on his left hand, exclaiming, This thing is so expensive. In Lu Qing's view, it's just a string of beads, and it sells for tens of thousands of dollars, which is really outrageous. That's natural, the shop owner said affirmatively. On the market now, a pound of Hainan Wanghuili wood is worth tens of thousands, and the ones with better quality even reach 100,000. It's terrifying. Hearing that a pound of wood can sell for 100,000 yuan, Lu Qing was dumbfounded. Haha, this small leaf red sandalwood is similar. The furniture made from it, such as beds, wardrobes, and tables, such a set will cost at least several 100,000 to buy. Seeing Lu Qing's shocked expression, the shop owner smiled and continued. Of course, whether it is Hainan Wanghuili or lobular red sandalwood, the reason why they are so expensive is that they are almost sky-high, mainly because they are rare and expensive. The shop owner finally said. Lu Qing listened and nodded. It's a pity that these saplings are going to be smashed into my hands. Looking at the small saplings under his feet, the shop owner's face became sad again. After all, there are still tens of thousands of saplings that have not been processed. In this summer season, the temperature is getting higher and higher every day, and it is even more difficult to sell. Lu Qing listened thoughtfully. Hey, forget it, stop talking. Shaking his head, the shop owner said to Lu Qing, after talking so much, I haven't done the business yet. Let's go, little brother, let's go in and get the watermelon seeds you ordered. Less than 10 minutes, Lu Qing and the shop owner transported more than 2,000 packets of watermelon seeds to the car and put them away. After confirming that there is no problem, Lu Qing transferred the money to pay. After paying the money, Lu Qing looked at the sad-faced shop owner and asked calmly, by the way, boss, how much are these small saplings under your feet? When the shop owner heard this, he was taken aback for a moment, looked at Lu Qing and said, do you want to buy it? Lu Qing nodded and replied, I bought it and planted it and tried it out. It's pretty good as an ornamental tree. 2. The shop owner listened to Lu Qing's words and said, although the price of this lobular red sandalwood and Hainan Wanghuili is higher than gold, it is so easy to become a material. The growth is too slow, and it will take at least 100 years to grow into a material. Anyway, you have said so much. You are sure to pack them all and take them away. Just give them 6,000 yuan. The shop owner continued. You also know that I am dealing with them, and they are all given to you at the lowest price. And there are nearly 500 saplings in this pile, including more than 200 Hainan Wanghuili seedlings and more than 100 small leaf red sandalwood seedlings. These small leaf red sandalwood seedlings were imported from India. For less money. As for the rest, there are 70 or 80 golden nanmu seedlings, as well as some black walnut seedlings, beech seedlings and oak seedlings. The shop owner finally introduced. Okay, 6,000 is 6,000. After listening to Lu Qing, he nodded and agreed, and then transferred the payment. In the end, it took more than half an hour before all 500 saplings were moved to the car and put away. Let's go. After moving the saplings and washing his hands, Lu Qing greeted the shop owner, then opened the car door, started the car, and drove home. So hungry. When he got home, Lu Qing felt that his stomach was rumbling with hunger. He took out his mobile phone and saw that it was almost 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Lu Qing immediately started to make his own lunch. As for the watermelon seeds and the hundreds of saplings that I just bought, Lu Qing found a place where no one was on the way back, and put them all in the portable space. When Xiaobai and Xiaohe saw Lu Qing coming back, they immediately got up from their nests, greeted them happily, and followed Lu Qing's feet. Lu Qing didn't care about these two little guys and started to cook lunch on his own. I saw Lu Qing take out 3 bright red tomatoes and a handful of green vegetables from the space, which were just planted. Without washing, Lu Qing directly cut the tomatoes into small pieces, took out 2 eggs from the refrigerator, and made a scrambled egg with tomatoes, while the green vegetables Lu Qing scrambled directly. Dinner. In less than 5 minutes, the 2 dishes were ready. Lu Qing immediately started to eat the porridge left over from the morning. Xiaobai and Xiaohe squatted at the table and stared at Lu Qing intently. I am full. After 3 bowls of porridge and half of the 2 dishes, Lu Qing felt his stomach bloated. Come on, these are for you both. Afterwards, Lu Qing poured the rest of the food into the small white and black bowl who had been watching, and after cleaning the tableware and chopsticks, Lu Qing entered the space. Rise. After entering the space, Lu Qing began to plant small saplings. On the way back, Lu Qing searched the internet and found that Hainan Wanghuili and lobular rosewood, as well as golden nanmu, are indeed the best among the trees, as the flower shop owner said. Although the price is somewhat different from what he said, Lu Qing checked and found that the current market price of a ton of Hainan Wanghuili wood is at least 10 million yuan. So after Lu Qing entered the space, he couldn't wait to plant it, because Lu Qing felt that he was not planting trees, but banknotes. Under the control of Lu Qing's mind, there were only 500 small saplings that were planted in a few minutes. Then Lu Qing manipulated the water in the pool, falling on them like a steady stream of light rain, and immediately absorbed the small saplings from the pool, growing at a speed visible to the naked eye from a height of more than 20 centimeters. Stand up. 1 meter, 2 meters, 3 meters, 6 meters. I saw that each of the small saplings grew into big trees 6 or 7 meters high in less than a minute, all of which were lush and leafy. However, the lake controlled by Lu Qing did not stop, and the trees were still growing taller and growing, with countless branches and green leaves. It wasn't until half an hour passed that Lu Qing stopped. Because Lu Qing found that the trees did not change in the following time, they should have grown to their limit, so he stopped. It's amazing. Looking up at the giant trees in the sky, towering into the sky and blocking the sun, the entire space is now a virgin forest. Lu Qing can't help but sigh. Chop it. Although the scenery in front of me is particularly beautiful, Lu Qing's purpose of planting them is not to watch them, but to exchange money. After all, there is space, and they can continue to be planted in the future, so now the small saplings have grown up. Lu Qing cut down without hesitation. Caw caw caw. Under the control of Lu Qing's thoughts, giant trees rose up directly from the ground, making a rattling sound. Afterwards, Lu Qing quickly chopped off the tiny branches and leaves on the trees, and immediately bare and clean logs appeared. Finally everything is done. After working for 10 minutes, Lu Qing breathed a sigh of relief when he saw the piles of wood in front of him, sorted and neatly stacked. I don't know if I can turn this Hainan Wanghuili log into stocks. After tidying up the logs, Lu Qing suddenly remembered that the bracelet that the owner of the flower shop was wearing was very beautiful, so he planned to get one for himself. After all, there are no processing tools in this space. It is really incredible to rely on the mind alone to physically change a piece of wood. Why don't you try it? Lu Qing thought to himself, I really can't do it. I'll go out and find a furniture factory to do it later. Anyway, Lu Qing is determined to make this bracelet today. When he came to the logs of Wanghuili in Hainan, he saw more than 200 small saplings, directly planting thousands of tons of wood. Lu Qing randomly selected a 40-meter-long wood with a diameter of nearly 1 meter. Next, Lu Qing used his thoughts to remove the moisture in the log, then cut a small section of it and began to make beads. It's really possible. Under the influence of Lu Qing's thoughts, he saw that golden and shiny beads the size of his thumb were instantly made. In just a few breaths, half a meter of material was all made into beads. Lu Qing was stunned. Because Lu Qing just had the attitude of giving it a try, but he didn't expect that he could actually make it. Would you like to make a box? After being stunned for a moment, Lu Qing, who came back to his senses, saw these beads, and planned to make a box to put them in. Then Lu Qing intercepted a 1-meter-long piece of wood and began to make it. In less than a minute, a bright yellow box, 50 centimeters long, 40 centimeters wide and 30 centimeters high, was made under the influence of Lu Qing's idea. Hey, this box still uses a tenon and mortise structure. After all, glue and nails are useless. Lu Qing looked at it carefully and was pleasantly surprised to find that the box just made was made of tenon and mortise structure. Haha, doesn't that mean that as long as there is space, I can make any kind of furniture and become a craftsman directly? Seeing this box, Lu Qing suddenly thought of it, with a happy smile on his face. Although he was happy, Lu Qing did not continue to make other furniture, but made a set of cute toys for his daughter Lu Xin, and then held the box and put all the beads in it. Lu Qing just exited the space. After coming out of the space, Lu Qing put the box on the table first, then put the toys made for Lu Xin in her room, then looked for needle money and prepared to string beads. There are no such things at home. After rummaging through the box for a long time, Lu Qing couldn't find a needle or thread, and immediately slapped his forehead. Lu Qing remembered that he had never bought a needle and thread to go home. Forget it, let's take it to the street and find someone to string it together. Since there is no needle and thread at home, Lu Qing decided in his heart. Immediately, Lu Qing took out her mobile phone and opened the search engine to check if there was a nearby place to make bracelets. Lu Qing soon found a shop that could make bracelets. After finding the store and recording the location, Lu Qing picked up a box of Hainan Wanghuili beads on the table and was ready to set off. You two want to go out too? Seeing that Lu Qing was about to go out, Xiaohe and Xiaobai came to the gate first. Looking at Lu Qing with a happy face, Lu Qing asked when he saw it. Wong wong wong. When Xiaobai and Xiaohe heard it, they shook their heads and waggled their tails, barking loudly, indicating that they wanted to go out. Well then, you two are bored at home anyway, so let's go together. Seeing the two little guys looking at him with joy, Lu Qing agreed immediately and said. With that said, Lu Qing opened the door. When Xiaobai and Xiaohe saw the door opened, they rushed downstairs like lightning. Lu Qing closed the door and walked downstairs with the suitcase in hand. It's too hot. As soon as he walked out of the corridor, Lu Qing suddenly felt a scorching heat wave, and the dazzling sunlight made people unable to open their eyes. Lu Qing immediately hugged the box and walked quickly to his parking spot. As for Xiaobai and Xiaohe, they had already obediently arrived in front of Lu Qing's car and waited. You two are getting smarter and smarter now, you even know the car. After Lu Qing came to the car with the box and saw it, he couldn't help but sigh that Xiaobai and Xiaohe were more and more full of spirituality. After all, the car Lu Qing parked at random on the roadside parking space outside the gate of the community. Go up. Opening the passenger door, Lu Qing faced Xiaobai and Xiaogang. When Xiaobai and Xiaohe heard this, they squatted and jumped easily to the co-pilot's seat, but Lu Qing didn't let them sit on it, but let the two little guys squeeze the co-pilot's feet, because in the passenger seat, Lu Qing wanted to let go of the suitcase. Boom. After putting the box away, Lu Qing slammed the door and closed the door. Then he hurried to the driver's seat on the other side, opened the door and got in the car. I'm going. This car is like a steamer. Although Lu Qing parked the car in the shade of the tree on the street, but after all, it is hot summer and the sun is scorching the earth. When Lu Qing gets in the car, it feels like sitting in a steamer, which is extremely hot. Lu Qing immediately turned on the air conditioner in the car, and the air conditioner suddenly made a humming sound, followed by a weak cold wind. Feeling that this is not much different from not turning on the air conditioner, Lu Qing couldn't help complaining, sooner or later, you will have to be replaced. Saying that, Lu Qing hurriedly started the car and drove to the place where the bracelets were strung together. 20 minutes later. It should be here. Lu Qing drove his car to the door of an antique shop called Xianshuan. After making sure that he was in the wrong place, after parking the car, Lu Qing hurriedly opened the door and got out of the car. Mainly it's too hot outside. Afterwards, Lu Qing held the box, took Xiaobai and Xiaohe, and hurriedly pushed the door and walked into Xianshuan. Wow, it's really cool in here. After entering the store and feeling the air conditioning inside, Lu Qing suddenly felt a cooling sensation, while Xiaobai and Xiaohe came inside and lay on the floor tiles directly. Welcome. Seeing Lu Qing walk in, a beautiful clerk wearing a work uniform and light makeup greeted her with a smile on her face. Sir, welcome to our Xianshuan, please take a look. Our Xianshuan sells they are all genuine, and if you have a fancy object, you can start directly. Hello, beauty, I'm not here to buy something. When Lu Qing heard this, he looked at the enthusiastic clerk in front of him, mistook himself for something, and quickly explained. That's it, I found that your store can string bracelets on the internet, so I came here to ask, how much is a string of bracelets here? That's it. When Qingli's clerk heard this, the enthusiasm on her face suddenly decreased a bit. After all, her commission is high if she can sell something, but she still smiled and replied, Sir, hello, our shop charges for a string of beads, 15 yuan, free line. It's so expensive, Lu Qing exclaimed. In Lu Qing's opinion, a string of beads costs only a few dollars. Of course, the more important reason is that there are thousands of Hainan Wanghuili beads in the box Lu Qing is holding. Cost. Sir, our Xianshuan is charged at the market price. The handsome female clerk replied lightly. But what if I string too many? Lu Qing, who did not give up, continued to ask, can that be a little cheaper? Saying that, Lu Qing hurriedly opened the box he was holding, revealing a box full of beads. Although Lu Qing didn't count the number of Hainan Wanghuili beads, there were only 1,000 or 2,000. God, so many. The female clerk looked at her eyes widened, and she exclaimed. She can't be blamed for this either. Most of the people who come to the store to string beads usually string 1 or 2 strings, but I didn't expect that today someone took thousands of beads to string bracelets. And although the female clerk didn't work for a long time, she saw the beads in Lu Qing's box, which seemed to be very similar to the Hainan Wanghuili ghost eye bracelet that her boss brought, and quickly said, "Hello, sir, please sit on the sofa over there. I'll go inside and ask the boss to see if he can give you a discount. After all, you have so many beads here." Lu Qing nodded in agreement. Immediately, she followed the female clerk to the sofa beside her, and the female clerk made Lu Qing a cup of tea and hurried to the inner office to find the boss. And Lu Qing was drinking tea and looking at the quaint shop in front of him. Less than a minute, I saw the female clerk who had just entered and walked out, followed by a middle-aged man in his 40s who was already fat and wore a pair of golden glasses. "Little brother, do you want to string beads?" The middle-aged man came to Lu Qing, squinted his eyes, and said with a smile on his face. Hearing this, Lu Qing pointed to a box of beads on the coffee table in front of him and said, "It's all here, boss. Can you see if the price of bracelets in your shop can be cheaper? After all, I have to string so many here." Good talk, good talk. When the shop owner heard this, he responded with a quick smile, and then turned his eyes to the beads in the box on the coffee table. When he saw it, he couldn't believe it. He quickly took off his glasses, wiped them carefully, and put them back on. Pick up a bead from Lu Qing's box, sit down, and examine it carefully. I saw the shop owner carefully check the texture of the beads in his hand, and smell it. After checking a few beads in a row, the shop owner stopped, with a smile on his face, and asked Lu Qing, "I take the liberty, little brother, where did all your beads come from?" Lu Qing replied with a harmless expression, "Pick it up. Haha, little brother, you really know how to joke." When the shop owner heard this, there was a hint of embarrassment on his face, and he quickly smiled. Maine just checked it carefully, and the shop owner found out that the beads in the box in front of Lu Qing's eyes were all high-quality Hainan Wanghuili ghost eye beads, so he asked so urgently. Of course, the shop owner also knows that it is not good for people who go straight to the bottom, so they look a little embarrassed. I knew that I would just find a roadside stall and string these beads. When asked by the shop owner, Lu Qing thought to himself, after all, he doesn't like others to ask questions, so Lu Qing's face looked a little impatient and said, "Boss, are you saying that you can get a discount on a bunch of bracelets here? If not, I'll go to another place to see." Go, go, go. The shop owner looked at Lu Qing's face, and quickly replied with a smile, "Of course there is a discount, little brother, so be it. My shop usually charges 15 yuan for a string of beads. If you have so much here, just give it to you. It's 10 yuan, of course, the string of beads. We are free, what do you think?" And when the handsome female clerk standing by the side heard this, she looked at her boss in disbelief. How could she suddenly become so generous today? Lu Qing thought it was okay, nodded and said, "Just at this price, but I hope you can speed up." "Don't worry, little brother, these beads of yours will be finished in more than an hour at most," the store owner replied, and he quickly arranged for the 2 female clerks in the store to string these beads together, while he made an excuse to leave and returned to his office. Afterwards, Lu Qing sat on the sofa, drinking tea, watching the 2 ingenious female clerks quickly stringing strings of beads. As for Xiaobai and Xiaohei, they lay comfortably on the ground beside Lu Qing and fell asleep. Time flies. 10 minutes passed. This bracelet is really comfortable to wear, it's very beautiful, and it can smell a faint fragrance. Lu Qing played with the first bracelet he just made, and couldn't help but sigh. The shop owner, standing at the door at this time, looked at the time, and looked outside the door again. His face seemed a little anxious, as if he was waiting for someone. Another 2 minutes passed. Outside the door of Xianshuan, a black Mercedes-Benz hurriedly approached, stopped at the door of the store, and then got off the back seat of the car, a spirited old man in his 60s or 70s. When the shop owner saw the old man, his face suddenly brightened, and he hurriedly opened the door and went out to greet him. And Lu Qing, who was sitting on the sofa, didn't know. After entering the shop, the old man in white came to the sofa where Lu Qing was sitting, and the shop owner followed him. After seeing Lu Qing, the old man smiled and said straight to the point, "Hello, young man, let me introduce myself first. This old man is the father of the owner of this shop. I just heard from him today that you brought thousands of Hainan Wanghuili beads to make bracelets, so I came here specially to have a look. Look, do you want to, boy? Lu Qing suddenly appeared in front of this old man with a smile on his face, who seemed very charitable. Although he was vigilant, he was too embarrassed to refuse when he saw what he said. He nodded and said, "Just please, old man, it's all here." "Then thank you, lad." The old man sat down as he spoke, then reached out and picked up a bunch of bracelets that had been made, and checked them carefully. Laozi stroked the smooth and delicate beads in his hands, carefully examining its texture, color, brilliance, and smelling it. After reading several series in a row, the old man stopped and said with praise, "Good things, they are all good things." With that said, the old man looked at Lu Qing and asked, "Young man, take the liberty to ask, you see so many bracelets here, do you have any plans to sell some?" Upon hearing this, Lu Qing asked with some doubts, "Master, do you want to collect bracelets in this antique shop?" Because in Lu Qing's opinion, these antique shops collect all the old antiques of the era, and they have to accept the newly made bracelets if they are not found. Haha, that's natural. We are not only collecting bracelets here, but also recycling modern artworks. The old man laughed and explained. Although there is an old saying in the business of antiques, it will not open for 3 years, and it will be open for 3 years, but in recent years, the competition has become more and more fierce, so the current antique shops are expanding their scope in order to survive. Then what was the price you bought? Listening to what the old man said, Lu Qing asked. Because Lu Qing just thought about it, he only brought a bunch of them to play anyway. The others, too much is useless, and there is room for him, so he can make it himself in the future, so see the old man and want to collect it here, Lu Qing, it's okay to sell them if you think the price is right. A string of 9,000 yuan. Seeing that Lu Qing was thinking of selling, the old man looked happy and said solemnly. 9,000. Hearing this, Lu Qing said slowly, "Old man, a friend of mine told me yesterday that the Hainan Wanghuili bracelet he bought 6 years ago cost thousands of yuan, and you 9,000 yuan, to be honest, it means shortcomings." Although Lu Qing doesn't know much about Hainan Wanghuili's hand printing, he is not stupid. After all, it was grown in a portable space, and the price must be higher than them. Lu Qing's remarks made the old man blush, and then the old man said apologetically, "Young man, I was abrupt. If you are sure to sell it, it will cost 23,000 a bunch." Dad, the shop owner behind him, seeing that his father's price more than doubled in an instant, couldn't help but reminded anxiously, because this price was collected, and he couldn't make much money. To shut up. As soon as the old man heard this, he shouted sharply, "Something that doesn't work." It turned out that the old man came to the shop because his son wanted to buy these beads from Lu Qing, but because the number of beads Lu Qing brought was too many, the shop owner was worried about the hole, so he hurriedly called his father to check it together. "Okay, the price is fine." Hearing the price, Lu Qing agreed and said, "Hey, the bracelets that have been strung are all placed on the coffee table, and the beads that have not been strung are still in the box. How many will be counted later?" "Well, there's a box here." Listening to Lu Qing's words, the old man put his eyes on the box beside him. It's not his fault, but the old man's attention was mainly focused on the string of bracelets in front of him. Then the old man sat on the sofa slightly closer to the box and checked it carefully. Then the old man ordered his son to bring a magnifying glass and check it carefully. I saw that the surface of the box was golden and bright, with countless black scars like eyes, crisscrossed, and there was not a single nail, a bit of glue, and a hinge on the box. Especially when the lid was closed, the whole box was completely integrated with a single gap. You can't even see it, as if it was dug out of a huge piece of material. Hiss. Seeing this, the old man took a deep breath. Because this is so amazing, so incredible, it goes against common sense. Of course, this is the first time the old man has seen such an ingenious box in decades. Then the old man was more and more surprised, and the more he looked, the more surprised he was. At the end of the reading, the old man blushed and had a thick neck. He gasped and asked, "Young man, are you selling this box for 3 million? Lu Qing was dumbfounded. "Will it be sold for 5 million? Seeing that Lu Qing did not speak, the old man continued to speak. Lu Qing, who understood, was just about to speak, when the old man said again, "Is it for sale for 10 million? Hearing this, Lu Qing said without hesitation, I sell. Chapter 31. Dad, is this box really worth 10 million? Watching Lu Qing walk out of the shop with 2 puppies, the shop owner couldn't help but ask the old man, don't hit me. Because when the old man increased the price frantically just now, no matter how he reminded him, it was as if he hadn't heard it. You know shit. When the old man heard this, he glared at his son fiercely and said, you gave your glasses to clean, look carefully and say. Is this made from the best Hainan Wangwili ghost eye? The shop owner heard what his father said, and saw the difference in the box in front of him. Because just the material in this box, it will not grow at all within a few hundred years. Hey, Dad, this box doesn't even have an iron hinge. How the hell is this lid linked to the box below? It's amazing. Later, the shop owner discovered the extraordinary craftsmanship at the link of the box lid and couldn't help exclaiming. Dad, your 10 million is really worth it. After reading it carefully, the shop owner found that this box is an ingenious object. Although there has not been one with the same craftsmanship as it, the shop owner felt that Lousy was worth the money, so he quickly praised. That's natural. When the old man heard this, his face was very proud. Well, the money has indeed arrived. After coming out of Xianshuan, although Lu Qing received the bank transfer information notification, he still logged into his mobile banking account to confirm whether the money in the box and bracelet that he just sold had arrived. There are 2,305 beads in the box, one bracelet has 12 beads, a total of 192 bracelets have been made. Lu Qing removed the ones on his hands, and kept a total of 10 strings, thinking about giving them to himself in the future family and friends, and the rest were sold, with an income of more than 4 million. As for the box, Lu Qing was also thinking, if he insisted on not selling it, the old man would have offered a higher price later, but it was precisely because of the crazy price increase of the old man that Lu Qing did not hesitate to sell it. After all, this box, Lu Qing wants, no matter how many can be made. After confirming that the money was in the account, Lu Qing took Xiaobai and Xiaohei to the front of the car quickly, ready to drive away without him, mainly because the weather was too hot. Hiss. Under the sun, Lu Qing endured that the car was like an oven. After Xiaobai and Xiaohei got into the car, Lu Qing hurriedly got into the car. Suddenly, he felt his butt sitting on a red-hot soldering iron, and he couldn't help but gasp. This made Lu Qing, who had endured the poor air conditioner, simply couldn't bear it any longer, change the car. After all, this car was also borrowed from a good buddy, and it has been borrowed for several days. It is impossible to keep borrowing it, and Lu Qing now has money in his pocket, so he will directly consider changing to a new car. Well, go buy it now. Then Lu Qing took out his mobile phone and checked the time, and found that it was only early 3 o'clock, so he hurriedly searched for the nearest 4S store. After finding it, Lu Qing quickly started the car and went there. Considering the fact that he is pulling goods and selling fruits, Lu Qing still chooses the current model, but it is the latest model. More than 10 minutes later, Lu Qing, who was galloping all the way, came to the 4S store. Then Lu Qing drove the car into the empty parking space in front of the 4S store and parked the car, then took Xiaobai and Xiaohei out of the car and walked quickly to the store. At this point, in the hot summer, the 4S store is also very deserted. Except for a receptionist standing at the door, the rest of the sales guides are sitting listlessly on the sofa in the store watching their mobile phones or playing games. When Lu Qing came over, the middle-aged male shopping guide standing at the door hurriedly opened the door for him and greeted him with a smile. Hello, sir, welcome to the Daming 4 store, all the cars in the store can be tested. Brother, do you have a good model, or can I introduce you a few? Hello, eldest brother, my surname is Lu, and the first name is Qing. Just call me Lu Qing. You don't need to be as polite as Mr. Lu. Lu Qing said quickly when he heard the call from the middle-aged man. Haha, okay, I think you should be younger than me, I'll just call you Brother Lu. When the middle-aged man heard this, he laughed and introduced himself. My surname is Li, and my name is Wei. Well, okay, Brother Li. Hearing this, Lu Qing nodded and explained his intention. Brother Li, is the latest model of the car I just drove and now available? Yes, Brother Lu. When Li Wei heard this, he smiled and replied quickly. Because he just saw Lu Qing driving in the car, he is naturally clear about the model Lu Qing drives. Then can you take me there and take a test drive? When Lu Qing heard this, he hurriedly asked. Haha, there's nothing wrong with this, the car is next to the car, you come with me, brother Lu. Li Wei laughed. Immediately, Lu Qing followed. After walking for a while, Lu Qing followed Li Wei to the car he wanted to buy. Brother Lu, this is the latest version of the Wuling Rongguang photo card. Li Wei stood in front of the car and introduced. Compared with the previous generations, the latest model has a new power system with stronger horsepower, a new cooling system, and a new audio system. Anyway, Li Wei said a lot later, but Lu Qing didn't listen and interrupted. Brother Li, what is the current price of this car? The landing price is 42,000. Li Wei replied. Lu Qing nodded after listening, and it was similar to the online quotation. Afterwards, Lu Qing went for a test drive. The new car felt different, especially its cooling effect, which made Lu Qing very satisfied. I bought this car. After returning from the test drive, Lu Qing said to Li Wei, Brother Li, please help me pick up a new one. Seeing that Lu Qing was about to buy it, Li Wei was very happy. No problem, just wait a moment, Brother Lu, the new car is in the parking lot at the back. I'll go and drive it over. Okay, Lu Qing replied. After waiting for a few minutes, the new car came over. Lu Qing checked it on a test drive. After confirming that there was no problem, he signed the car purchase contract, then paid and went through various landing procedures. Finally, after all the formalities were completed, Li Wei with a smile on his face handed over the formalities to Lu Qing and said, Congratulations to Brother Lu for picking up the new car. Lu Qing took the information in the file bag, nodded, checked the time, it was already 4 o'clock, and her daughter Lu Xin was about to leave school, so she said to Li Wei. Brother Li, my daughter will be out of school soon. Since the procedures for buying a car are done, I will go first. And the license plate, your Ford's shop helped me to take the photo, please let me know, I'll come and get it when the time comes. Lu Qing continued. Because it is not so easy for individuals to bid for the license plate in Modu, Lu Qing paid 2,000 yuan and asked the Ford's shop to do the auction. Okay, I'll contact you as soon as the license plate is taken. Li Wei replied with a smile. Lu Qing listened and nodded. Later, outside the store, Lu Qing took Xiaobai and Xiaohei to the new car, started the car and went to the gas station next to it to fill up the gas, then galloped back all the way to pick up Lu Xin from school. Baba. When Lu Qing, who was speeding all the way, drove his car to the kindergarten, it happened to be the time when his daughter Lu Xin was out of school. Lu Qing immediately parked the car, opened the door and got off, and walked towards the door of the kindergarten with Xiaobai and Xiaohei. When Lu Xin took the lead and rushed out of the teaching building, he saw that he cried out with joy. Seeing this, Lu Qing didn't know why her daughter Lu Xin was born to run so much. Baba. Lu Xin ran in front of Lu Qing and pulled his trouser legs, her little face shouted with a smile. Hey, Lu Qing responded quickly, Xingxin, why are you so happy today? Because I got a little red flower today. Lu Xinqui replied vigorously, it's in the school bag. Little Honghua. Lu Qing was puzzled, and asked Lu Xin, can Xingxin tell Baba why did you get the little red flower today? Because teacher Tutu praised me for my good painting. Lu Xin blinked her big watery eyes, looked at Lu Qing and said, I even framed my paintings and put them in the corridor of the kindergarten. Really, it was the first time Lu Qing heard that her daughter could draw, but she had never heard of it before. Looks like I'll have to ask Mr. Tutu what's going on when I go back later. Lu Qing thought to himself. Xiaobai, Xiaohei, don't you two lick my hand, cluck. After talking to Lu Qing, Lu Xin immediately started playing with Xiaohei and Xiaobai next to him, only to see two little guys shaking their heads and waving their tails around Lu Xin, making her giggle. By the way, Baba, Xingxin's clothes are torn. At this moment, Lu Xin, who was having a good time with Xiaobai and Xiaohei, suddenly stopped as if he remembered something, and looked at Lu Qing pitifully. Because this dress is Lu Xin's favorite. Is it broken there? Lu Qing asked quickly, show Baba quickly. Here, Lu Xin lifted up his clothes and pointed his fleshy little finger to a hole the size of a little finger in the clothes. Look, Baba, it's here. Lu Qing followed Lu Xin's finger and found that Lu Xin's pink t-shirt had a small hole on the left side, and it was hard to tell if you didn't look carefully. Hey, what's going on? After seeing this small hole, Lu Qing was a little puzzled. He remembered that Lu Xin's clothes were only worn this morning, and he didn't see any holes in the clothes when he washed them. Immediately, Lu Qing smiled and looked at Lu Xin and said, "Be kind, can you tell Baba how the small hole in the clothes was caused?" "I don't know why there is this hole in the clothes," Lu Xin replied innocently when he heard it, "and it was you who saw it." With that said, Lu Xin's little face became sad again. Seeing this, Lu Qing didn't bother to worry about the reason for the torn clothes. He squatted down and looked at Lu Xin and said, "Be kind, don't be sad. After dinner, Baba will take you to buy new clothes." Because Lu Qing just thought about it, it seems that she hasn't bought new clothes for her daughter for a long time. Anyway, it is better to choose a day than to hit the sun, so I plan to buy some for her tonight. Real. When Lu Xin, who was originally depressed and sad, heard this, her eyes suddenly lit up, and she looked at Lu Qing in disbelief. "Of course it's true." Lu Qing gently scratched Lu Xin's nose and said with a smile, "And Baba will buy you a lot of pieces." "Yeah, Baba, you are so kind." When Lu Xin heard this, she jumped into Lu Qing's arms with joy, hugged his neck, and praised loudly. Ha ha. When Lu Qing heard her daughter's compliment, she laughed loudly, then put her arms around Lu Xin's chest and said, "Let's go, Xingxin, let's go home." Saying that, Lu Qing trotted with Lu Xin in his arms, while Xiaobai and Xiaohe quickly ran to the front, then came to the front of the car and drove home. "Xingxin, you have to do your homework before you can watch the bears." Back home, Lu Qing warned. Mainly, the TV station recently released a cartoon called Bears, and the little girl fell in love with it, so Lu Qing had to remind her. "Okay, Baba." Of course, Lu Xin is also very obedient and has strong self-control. If he doesn't finish his homework, he won't turn on the TV. Yeah, seeing Lu Xin obediently taking out a small book from his school bag and writing, Lu Qing nodded with satisfaction, then went into the kitchen and started making dinner. After an hour, Lu Qing, who had prepared a table of fragrant meals, said to Lu Xin, who was watching Bears and laughing, "Xingxin, come over for dinner." When Lu Xin heard this, he quickly responded, "Baba." With that said, Lu Xin turned off the TV. Immediately, Lu Xin came to the dining table and sat down to have dinner with Lu Qing. I saw Lu Xin gulping down the vegetables in the bowl in front of him. As for the meat, Lu Xin didn't eat a piece at all, and only meat was left in the last few dishes. Seeing this, Lu Xinpu flashed her bright eyes and asked with some doubts, "Baba, why are the vegetables in these dishes so delicious, but the meat is not?" Yes. Hearing this, Lu Qing stopped his chopsticks, looked at the dishes in front of him, and there were only meat left. He remembered that he was always eating vegetables while eating, and he couldn't help but show a hint of embarrassment on his face, and said casually, "Because vegetables are it's delicious, that's why we only eat vegetables." Of course, Lu Qing also knows the specific reasons. The main reason is that these vegetables are grown in space, so they are so delicious. The result of not eating much meat directly led to the rapid growth of the little whites and blacks at home. Or, go buy some pigs, chickens, ducks, etc., and feed them in the space. Seeing the scene in front of him, Lu Qing thought to himself. After all, it is not a problem to always grow vegetables to eat in the space. Forget it, let's finish eating. Immediately shook his head, Lu Qing continued to eat. After eating dinner and washing the dishes, Lu Qing checked the time and prepared to take Lu Xin out to buy clothes. However, when Lu Qing saw the date displayed on the phone as August 15th, he couldn't help but be taken aback and said, "Is it already the 15th today? Why didn't I receive last month's salary today?" It turned out that when Lu Qing was working as a food delivery driver, the salary was always paid on the 15th. Although Lu Qing resigned at the beginning of the month, the salary for the previous month was still there. Immediately, Lu Qing hurriedly flipped through the bank's notification message today. It turns out that the salary has already arrived. After a brief search, Lu Qing saw a text message reminder that the salary had arrived. After seeing the salary credited, Lu Qing hurriedly opened WeChat, found her parents' WeChat, picked one at random, and played the video to call. It turns out that the 15th of every month is not only the day to pay wages, but also the day that Lu Qing chats with her family. When Lu Qing was working as a rider, she ran upstairs and downstairs every day, and she had to take care of her daughter, so she didn't have time to chat with her family. Only when the salary is paid on the 15th of every month and when I send money to my parents, I will chat with them for a while. Soon, the video was connected, and there was a middle-aged man in his 50s with a face similar to Lu Qing, but his skin was tanned. Dad. After seeing the middle-aged man, Lu Qing quickly and kindly exclaimed. It turned out that the middle-aged man was Lu Qing's father. He usually worked on the construction site, so his skin was so dark. When Lu Qing's father saw him, he nodded with a smile on his face and asked, Son, how are you doing recently? Where's my sweet little granddaughter? It's been fine recently, Dad. Lu Qing quickly replied. As for Lu Xin, this little girl is in her own room. Grandfather. Lu Xin in the room heard Lu Qing talking about himself, and ran out quickly, seeing his grandfather who was on a video call opposite, and shouted with joy, I miss you. Because Grandpa always takes her to fun places and buys her a lot of delicious food, Lu Xingkai likes her grandpa so much. Ouch, my sweet little granddaughter, Grandpa misses you too. Lu Qing's father replied dotingly when he saw Lu Xin. Yes, it seems that I have nothing to do with myself. Seeing Lu Xin holding the phone and chatting with his father, based on the previous experience, Lu Qing knew that he would have nothing to do with him in the future. Especially after talking, Lu Qing's mother and Lu Qing's sister joined in and chatted with Lu Xin. Even though Lu Xin is only 3 years old, he is still very articulate and has a very sweet mouth. Every time he talks, Lu Qing's parents ask Lu Qing to send the child back with red eyes. After chatting for about 20 minutes, Lu Xin, who was smiling all over his face, handed over the phone to Lu Qing and said, Baba, here, Grandpa wants to talk to you. Okay, I won't say anything more to you, just take care of your heart. After picking up the phone, Lu Qing's father on the other side of the video urged. Saying that, turn off the video call. When Lu Qing heard it, her heart was still the same as before. Seeing that his father on the other end of the phone was about to hang up the video call, Lu Qing hurriedly stopped and said, Dad, don't hang up the video in a hurry, I still have important things to tell you. In fact, in today's video call, in addition to chatting, there is also money transferred to my parents. After all, I have a personal space and I have made so much money recently. Lu Qing plans to transfer some of it to them. After all, looking at her parents who are getting older, Lu Qing knows that it is not easy for them to be at home, and they have to support her sister to study, so Lu Qing will send money back every 15th. What's the matter with you? Lu Qing's father at the other end of the video asked. It's like this, Dad, I accidentally bought a lottery ticket and won the jackpot last month, and then I successfully redeemed the prize today and got the money. Lu Qing replied. I'll transfer some of it to you now, please pay attention. Come on. This is the most acceptable excuse Lu Qing thought of. After all, a windfall or a pie from the sky can't be rich overnight except for lottery tickets. While talking, Lu Qing transferred 5 million to his father's bank account. Thinking of my old sister, who was admitted to Wadden University, which is the best in the capital, the college entrance examination this year, my own brother seemed to have nothing to say, so she quickly transferred 60,000 on WeChat, and wrote, Old sister, this is for my brother. The reward for your admission to the university, if you come to the magic capital to study in the future, all the expenses will be covered. In fact, Lu Qing didn't expect that he couldn't read by himself, but he was 8 years younger than him, and the slug sister who had been following his butt since he was a child could read so well. After transferring the money, Lu Qing said to his father on the other end of the video call, Okay, Dad, then I'll hang up. The money has already been transferred, you and Mom don't have to work so hard in the future, you can buy whatever you want anyway. Buy something. After speaking, Lu Qing hung up the video call. On the other end of the phone, Lu Qing's father was looking at the transfer to account communication sent by the bank, especially when he saw the string of zeros after the 5th, he wiped his eyes in disbelief, but he was indeed right. After that, Lu Qing's father's hands suddenly became trembling. Li Shang, Li Shang. Lu Qing's father came to Lu Qing's mother, and Lu Qing's mother was cooking in the kitchen at this time. What the hell are you doing here? Didn't you see you were making dinner? Lu Qing's mother heard Lu Qing's father's cry, and quickly came out of the kitchen, saying dissatisfied. No, it was my son who sent us money. Lu Qing's father quickly explained. When Lu Qing's mother heard this, she rolled her eyes at him and said, "Isn't our son sending money at this time every month? What are you making a fuss about? Anyway, we have to save this money for him, so he can marry a wife or buy a house in the future." "Hey, listen to me first," Lu Qing's father said. "Do you know how much my son transferred to this card? 5 million, I just counted it several times, it's really 500. Wow. What did you say?" When Lu Qing's mother heard this, she opened her mouth and said in a daze, "You said that your son transferred 5 million to you for this card?" "Yeah," Lu Qing's father nodded affirmatively. My God. When Lu Qing's mother heard the huge transfer, she was a little worried. "So much money suddenly came from my son, do you think he will? After all, 5 million for them may not be able to save such money in a lifetime." "Hey, what are you thinking?" Lu Qing's father said angrily when he saw Lu Qing's mother's expression. "Our son has been honest since he was a child. How could he do such a thing? Why is my son so rich all of a sudden?" Lu Qing's mother asked with some doubts. Lu Qing's father replied, "Son said he won the jackpot." At this moment, there was a sudden scream in the daughter's room, followed by a sound of joy. Lu Qing's mother pricked her ears and affirmed, "It must be the son who gave this sister money. No, I have to go and collect the money. What is the child doing with so much money?" Having said that, Lu Qing's mother walked to her daughter's room, and after a while, there was a terrifying cry from the house. Anyway, this night, the Lu family is destined to be difficult to read. Let's go. After hanging up the video call, Lu Qing checked the time and found that it was only before 7 o'clock in the evening. He turned around and said to Lu Xin, who couldn't wait to go out to buy new clothes, Xin, let's go to the store now. You buy clothes. As for the 5 million transferred to the family just now, this is something Lu Qing has considered. After all, it is impossible to transfer too much or too little to go back. Of course, Lu Qing also knows that the parents need to digest this money before they can calm down. Go out to buy new clothes. When Lu Xin heard this, he immediately said happily. As soon as the two little guys, Xiaobai and Xiaohei, heard that they were going to go out, their little butts twitched and they came to the front door quickly, their mouths open and gasping, and they looked at Lu Qing and Lu Xin happily. "The two of you should stay at home, because the mall is not allowed to enter." Seeing this, Lu Qing quickly said to Xiaobai and Xiaohei, "Why, Baba, why can't you take Xiaobai and Xiaohei out together?" Lu Xin turned around and asked with some doubts. After all, apart from going to school, Lu Xin and the little two are inseparable. "Because we are going to the mall to buy clothes this time." Lu Qing smiled at Lu Xin and explained slowly, "Puppy dogs are not allowed in there. What do you think, if we bring Xiaobai and Xiaohei, we can only let them stay outside, but there are so many people there, what if Xiaobai and Xiaohei are lost?" Lu Qing went on to say, "No, Xiaobai and Xiaohei can't be lost." When Lu Xin heard this, his little head shook like a rattle and said reluctantly, "Then Xiaobai and Xiaohei should stay at home." Immediately, Lu Xin came to Xiaohei and Xiaobai, squatted down, patted their heads, and said in a nutty voice, "Xiaobai and Xiaohei can't take you out tonight, you two just stay at home and have a good time. Come on, I'll play with you when I come back from shopping." Woo! When Xiaobai and Xiaohei heard it, he shook his head and waved his tail, and suddenly made a whimper, and then obediently returned to his own nest and lay down. Let's go down." Seeing this, Lu Qing quickly opened the door. "Yeah," Lu Xin nodded. Afterwards, Lu Qing and Lu Xin came to the parking lot downstairs, opened the door and got in the car, started the car, drove out of the community, and drove to the shopping mall that sells clothes. After half an hour, Lu Qing drove his car to the front of a shopping mall called Shimao Tianji. This is the largest shopping mall in the area where Lu Qing is located, and Lu Qing also checked it out before coming here. There are several famous children's clothing brands in this shopping mall, specialty store. After all, now that she has made some money, Lu Qing plans to buy some slightly better clothes for her daughter. There just happens to be an empty parking space there. Lu Qing, who was about to park his car in the underground garage of the mall, was pleasantly surprised to find that a car was leaving in the parking space in front of the entrance of the mall, so he stepped on the gas pedal, preempted the other car, and parked in. After parking the car, Lu Qing opened the door and got out of the car, then came to the co-pilot, hugged Lu Xun down, and said, "Xin Xin, we're here." And after Lu Xun got out of the car, his eyes flashed, looking at the endless crowd, and exclaimed, "Wow, Baba, there are so many people here." "Yeah," Lu Qing nodded and reminded. "So Xingxin, you have to grab Baba's hand, be obedient later, and don't run around." "Yeah," Lu Xun nodded obediently in response. "Then let's go in." Lu Qing then walked into the mall with her daughter Lu Xun's little hand. In a black imported Lincoln Navigator, in the main driving position, one has a standard melon seed face, fair and tender skin, light makeup, and long black shawl hair. He is a youthful beauty in his early 20s. The girl, looking at the location where she planned to park, was preempted by a tow truck, and said with a fiery temper, "Xiaojing, just stop when others stop. Let's park in the underground garage. Why are you so angry?" In the back row, Lin Qing, who was a few years older than Lin Jing in the front row, had a temperament like an orchid and had the standard figure of a woman in a water town in the south of the Yangtze River, and said in a light voice. After speaking, Lin Qing turned his head and looked aside. On the special seat for children, a cute little girl under 2 years old smiled and teased, "You mean it, Little Jelly?" "Yeah," the little girl named Little Jelly nodded in a milky voice, "Mama, you're right." When Lin Qing heard this, he laughed even more. "Hey, you two mother and daughter are really biting Lu Dongbin, you don't know good hearts, people help your mother and daughter as drivers today, and they say, hum." Upon hearing this, Lin Jing glanced at the mother and daughter in the back row through the rearview mirror, and snorted with some dissatisfaction. But after saying that, Lin Jing still drove the car to the underground garage of the shopping mall. "Wow, Baba, it's so lively here." After walking into the mall, Lu Xun felt that her eyes were not enough, and there were fun, good-looking and delicious food everywhere. Baba, I want ice cream." Suddenly Lu Xun stopped and saw a couple coming out of a cold drink shop with ice cream in hand, shaking Lu Qing's hand and begging, "Is it ice cream?" Upon hearing this, Lu Qing followed Lu Xun's gaze and saw a cold drink shop selling ice cream, and agreed, "Let's go, Baba will buy it for you." After a few minutes, Lu Qing and Lu Xun walked out of the store with a small strawberry-flavored ice cream in each hand. Lu Xun ate while walking and said with admiration, "Baba, this ice cream is delicious." "Yeah," Lu Qing nodded in agreement while eating the ice cream in his hand. Afterwards, I saw that the clothes had not been bought yet. After walking down the first floor, Lu Qing already had a bamboo dragonfly made of bamboo, a windmill, as well as the dolls of bear-infested Shangda and Shang'er, which Lu Xun couldn't put down as soon as he saw it. As for the bald head, Lu Xun said she didn't like it, so she didn't buy it. Seeing that the little girl was in good spirits, and the purpose of buying her clothes had not yet been achieved, Lu Qing immediately said, "Xingxin, let's go buy you clothes. Welcome." Then Lu Qing took dolls and toys in one hand, and Lu Xun in the other. According to the floor guide, he came to the third floor and walked into a children's clothing store called Balabala at Will. Lu Qing and his daughter just walked into the store. The enthusiastic female clerk greeted her with a smile on her face. Especially seeing Lu Xun's pink and jade-like appearance, with big bright eyes shining like gems, the female clerk couldn't help but praise her. "What a lovely little girl." "Thank you, Auntie, for your compliment." Hearing this, Lu Xun smiled and replied politely with a sweet voice. When the female clerk heard this, she immediately praised Lu Xun for being polite and upbringing. Lu Qing, who was on the side, looked at his daughter Lu Xun and the female clerk, and asked and answered questions, not knowing when he would be the head, and quickly interrupted, "Let's go, Xingxin, let's go in and see if there are any clothes you like." Quote. Immediately, Lu Qing and Lu Xun walked into the store and strolled around. This shop is very large, with more than 200 square meters, and everywhere is covered with colorful, large and small children's clothing. After Lu Xun entered the shop, with a pair of bright eyes, he carefully looked at each beautiful piece of clothing. And Lu Qing is also looking at the clothes in the store seriously, but there are too many clothes in the store. Lu Qing feels that his eyes are a little confused, and secretly decides to wait for Lu Xun to choose by himself. After all, what my daughter likes is the most important. "Do you like this one?" Then came to a light blue t-shirt with a rabbit printed on it. Lu Xun stopped. Lu Qing looked at it and asked Lu Xun who had stopped. Yeah, Lu Xin nodded when he heard this. As for the female clerk who was with Lu Qing's father and daughter just now, because a large number of people suddenly poured into the store and there were not enough staff, she ran to receive them. Take that baba for you. Lu Qing immediately reached out and took off the clothes. Then, Lu Qing looked at the size of the clothes and found that Lu Xin could wear them, so he held the clothes and said to Lu Xin, Xingxin, let's go to the fitting room over there, you can try it on. Later, when he came to the fitting room, Lu Xin took the clothes and went in to try it on by himself. In less than 2 minutes, Lu Xin changed and walked out. Baba, do you think it looks good? After changing clothes, Lu Xin took a closer look under the mirror, and then came to Lu Qing and asked. When Lu Qing heard this, he held his hand and pinched his chin. He carefully looked at the clothes on Lu Xin's body. To be honest, the style of the clothes, the workmanship, the fabrics, everything was fine, but Lu Qing just felt that the clothes had her daughter's skin color didn't match, so Lu Qing shook it and said, it doesn't look good. Really? Hearing this, Lu Xin's eyes suddenly lit up, and he said with empathy, I also think this dress doesn't look good after wearing it. Lu Qing was so choked by Lu Xin's sudden reversal that she didn't know what to say. What about this one? Baba. Lu Qing watched Lu Xin choose another white t-shirt and shook his head. What about this one? Baba. Lu Qing still shook his head. Although Lu Xin is only in his early 3 years old, he still has his own opinions and ideas. For example, these clothes, although they look good, don't like them so much when they wear them. After trying a few pieces in a row, Lu Qing saw that Lu Xin was almost out of energy, and hurriedly said, let's go, Xin, let's go to another store to see. After all, there is more than one children's clothing store on this floor, so Lu left the store with Lu Xin. Wow, Baba, look, what a beautiful dress. After leaving the Balabala children's clothing store, Lu Qing and his daughter strolled on the 3rd floor. When passing by a store, Lu Xin, who was looking around, suddenly saw a set of pink long dresses displayed in the shop window beside him, and exclaimed, Road. Well, it's really pretty. Lu Qing looked at it, and found that it was as Lu Xin said, the skirt in the window was really pretty, and nodded in agreement. Then Baba, can we go in and see it? Lu Xin took Lu Qing's hand and looked at Lu Qing with big watery eyes. What, you want to go in and see this dress? When Lu Qing heard it, she couldn't believe it. After all, the skirts displayed in the window were all worn by adults. So Lu Qing explained patiently, my heart is good, this dress is for adults, children can't wear it, I will buy it for you when I grow up, okay? Baba, why do we have to buy it? Lu Xin asked with a childlike expression, can't we go in and see it? Lu Qing was at a loss for words. Then, Lu Qing agreed. Immediately, Lu Qing bit the bullet and walked in with Lu Xin. Welcome. As soon as he walked into the store, a young female clerk in her 20s wearing a black overall suit greeted her with a sweet smile. Hello, beauty, it's like this. Lu Qing originally didn't plan to buy anything and didn't need a shopping guide, so he quickly explained his intentions. Oh, I see. After listening to Lu Qing's words, the young female clerk immediately understood and said with a smile, Sir, this is fine. Even if you don't buy anything, you can visit our store casually. And sir, in fact, our store also sells children's clothing. The young female clerk continued. Your store still sells children's clothing. Lu Qing was a little surprised. Then I looked around, but I didn't see any children's clothes. Yes, sir, our children's clothes are all inside, you can take a look at me. The young female clerk replied with a smile. After speaking, he led Lu Qing and his daughter to the store. Later, walking through a corridor, Lu Qing realized that the store was unique, even though the outside display was full of exquisite and unique adult clothes. But when I came inside, I suddenly changed into the world of children, and children's clothes with unique styles can be seen everywhere. Wow, Baba, the clothes here are so pretty. Lu Xin looked at the beautiful clothes in front of her and said with admiration. Lu Qing has the same idea. For some reason, Lu Qing felt that the children's clothes in front of him looked much better than the clothes in the children's clothing store they just visited. At this moment, a young female clerk on the side said, Sir, our clothes are designed by internationally renowned children's clothing designers, so they look much better than other brands. If you like it, you can try it on. Yeah, Lu Qing nodded. When Lu Xin heard it, she hurriedly came to pick out the exquisite clothes, while the young female clerk helped her make reference. With a female clerk helping Lu Xin choose clothes, Lu Qing found a stool and sat down. Baba, what do you think of this dress? Soon, with the help of the female clerk, Lu Xin chose a dress to put on, then walked out and asked Lu Qing with a smile on her face. Well, it fits. Looking at Lu Xin's pink t-shirt with a huge dinosaur printed on it, Lu Qing thought it was pretty good looking. Afterwards, Lu Xin tried on several clothes and trousers one after another, and Lu Qing felt that they were all very suitable. Inadvertently, Lu Xin, who was picking clothes, suddenly saw the clothes in a closed and transparent display cabinet, stopped immediately, and then said shyly to the young female clerk on the side, "Auntie, I can try that address." The young female clerk was stunned when she heard this, then followed Lu Xin's gaze. She understood in an instant, and replied with a smile, "Of course, my little darling, Auntie will take it out for you now and put it on." After a few minutes, "Baba, do you think this dress looks good?" Lu Xin, who had changed her clothes, came to Lu Qing and asked shyly. On the stool, Lu Qing, who was looking down at her phone, heard something wrong with her daughter's voice, so she looked up and was stunned. "I saw Lu Xin wearing a snow-white off-the-shoulder long skirt with a ponytail and a pair of crystal sandals on her feet. The whole person looked like a beautiful little princess in a fairy tale. Let's go, Xingxin, it's time for us to go home." In front of the counter, after paying, Lu Qing looked down at Lu Xindao who was beside him and looked at the new shoes on his feet. Because of this new pair of sandals, every time Lu Xin takes a step, it will emit a different light, especially at night. It is colorful and very beautiful, so Lu Xin feels very novel and keeps staring at it. This pair of shoes was just bought for her by Lu Qing. After putting them on, she liked them and told her to wear them like this. "Well, let's go, Baba, let's go home." Hearing this, Lu Xin raised his head, holding Lu Qing in one hand and a bag for clothes in the other, like a little adult, with a happy smile on his face, and said contentedly. Because today Lu Xin bought several new clothes and pants, as well as this new pair of shoes on his feet, so he seemed very happy and satisfied. As for the princess dress just now, Lu Xin tried it on, but didn't buy it because she just wanted to try it on. And Lu Qing came to this mall and spent a few $100s to buy himself a pair of running shoes, as well as 2 sets of sweatshirts and shorts for running, which are convenient for changing and washing. Then Lu Qing took Lu Xin, came to the stairs, walked downstairs, and prepared to go home. After going down the stairs, Lu Qing and his daughter came to the gate of the mall and were about to go out, but at this moment, a piercing scream suddenly came from upstairs, resounding throughout the mall. When everyone including Lu Qing and his daughter heard the sudden and harsh scream, they stopped, turned around, and looked at the sound with some doubts. "Baba, Baba, look, there is a little sister standing there. It's dangerous." The sharp-eyed Lu Xin saw the 3rd floor at a glance. On a beam that protruded nearly 1 meter, there were 2 cute little pigtails on one head, and a little girl about 2 years old was standing on it. Behind the little girl, a young woman in her early 20s, holding the fence with one hand and covering her mouth with the other, looked at the little girl in horror. "I'm going, how does this adult take care of the child?" Lu Qing, who was on the side, followed the direction of Lu Xin's finger, and saw the terrifying scene in front of him, and couldn't help complaining. Because the little girl walked out of the fence behind the beam, there was a small door half a meter high. It should be that the staff of the mall forgot to lock it, and the little daughter's family did not take care of her, so she walked up. What an idiot! Then Lu Qing saw a beautiful woman in her 30s, who should be the little girl's mother. After seeing this, she came to the fence excitedly, with red eyes and tears, calling out the little girl's name. The reason Lu Qing scolded her was because the beam was only 30 centimeters wide. The little girl would definitely get excited when she heard her mother's cry. If she accidentally fell, the consequences would be disastrous. After all, the floors of this shopping mall are more than 5 meters high, and the 3rd floor where the little girl is located is 15 meters high from the ground floor. "Xingxin, you stay here, don't run around, Baba go and have a look." When the situation was in crisis, Lu Qing found that the staff of the mall saw it and was rushing over, but Lu Qing found that it was too late, and hurriedly faced Lu Xindao who was on the side. "Yeah," Lu Xin replied obediently. After finishing speaking, Lu Qing put the things down and walked directly under the little girl, intending to find some passers-by, pull a quilt or blanket or something, and pick her up below. Especially when he looked up and saw the little girl's mother was calling her constantly, he couldn't help speeding up his pace, because he was still more than 20 meters away from directly below the little girl. The little girl was on the ground floor below. Except for the smooth floor tiles, there was nothing, and even passers-by hid far away, for fear that the little girl would fall. "Little Jelly, come here and listen to Mama." Lin Qingmei's eyes were red, with tears in her eyes, and she cried out to her daughter on the beam with some emotion. "Sister." Lin Jing looked at Lin Qing with tears in her eyes, because if she hadn't been watching her phone and chatting with others intently just now, little Jelly wouldn't have gone to such a dangerous place. "Mummy." The little Jelly with two pigtails stood on the abrupt beam, and didn't feel scared at all. Hearing the numb shouts behind him, he turned around and said with a small face in surprise, "Little Jelly, come to Mama soon." When Lin Qing saw her daughter turn around, she quickly stretched out her hands and said, "Mama, hug." When little Jelly saw Lin Qing stretch out her hands, she also stretched out her hands and ran towards Lin Qing. "Don't, little Jelly, don't run." Seeing this scene, Lin Qing raised his heart in his throat, and hurriedly said loudly. But little Jelly, who was less than 2 years old, knew this there. Seeing Lin Qing stretched out her hand, she ran faster, and shouted as she ran, "Hug, cuddle, Ma." This is at this time. The running little Jelly staggered on the beam that was not wide, and the whole person fell from the beam in a daze. "Do not." Lin Qing burst into tears when he saw this scene, and then his eyes darkened, and he fainted to the ground. "Sister." Lin Jing, who was crying loudly beside him, quickly dragged Lin Qing's body and shouted in shock. At this time, idiot, Lu Qing, who quickly ran directly under the little girl, saw the woman in her 30s stretched out her hands and kept shouting for the little girl. The little girl became very happy and excited, and trotted straight away, and couldn't help cursing bitterly. "Depend on." Immediately afterwards, the little girl who was running because of her excitement stumbled and fell directly from the beam. Lu Qing saw this scene and burst into foul language. Immediately, directly below the little girl, Lu Qing, who was 7 or 8 meters away, saw the little girl fall, suddenly burst into the fastest speed, ran, followed by a lunge, jumped nearly 2 meters high, and quickly turned. The little girl who fell was hugged tightly in her arms, and with a bang, her back smashed to the ground. Resisting the pain in his back, Lu Qing gently let go of the little girl he was holding. Seeing that she was looking at him with her big watery eyes open, Lu Qing couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Oh, baby, don't cry." Seeing that the little girl was hugging her was a stranger, she immediately burst into tears and was about to cry. Seeing this, Lu Qing quickly patted the little girl on the back and coaxed her. After all, she has rich experience with Lu Xin. The little girl stopped crying immediately, especially Lu Qing took her to do Feifei a few times, just throwing the little girl in the air and catching her. The little girl giggled immediately. He laughed, and said in a milky voice, "Baba." Hearing this, Lu Qing immediately had black lines all over his head, and corrected him, "I'm not your Baba, I want to call me uncle." At this time, the staff of the mall all rushed over in a hurry, and they all breathed a sigh of relief when they saw that the little girl was all right. Then a middle-aged manager in charge of the mall came to Lu Qing, held his hand with a smile on his face, and thanked him sincerely. "Thank you, little brother, you have helped our mall a lot." As he said that, he took Lu Qing to the office of the mall and continued to thank him. After all, if the little girl had an accident, the mall would definitely be responsible for their relationship. No, big brother, I just happened to meet after shopping." Lu Qing quickly refused. "And my daughter is still waiting for me over there, and then go back together, so I'll leave this little girl to you." Having said that, Lu Qing handed the little girl in his arms to the manager in front of him, then turned and left. Wow! When the ignorant little girl saw that Lu Qing was gone, she suddenly burst into tears. Hiss! Hearing the cry of the little girl, Lu Qing did not turn back, but walked straight to the place where her daughter stayed at the gate of the shopping mall. While walking, Lu Qing felt the pain from her body and couldn't help taking a breath. But Lu Qing also knows that this pain is nothing. Drink more pool water in the portable space, it will be better soon. Upstairs, Lin Jing, who was tearful, looked at her elder sister who fainted in her arms, and at the little jelly that fell downstairs. Especially looking at little jelly, who was suddenly rescued by a stranger. After being safe, he wiped his tears and shouted in surprise, "Sister, wake up, sis." In Lin Jing's loud shout, Lin Qing quickly opened his eyes and woke up. When Lin Jing saw her sister wake up, she quickly said happily, Sister, you heard me, little jelly is fine, she was rescued, let's go down and see." What? When Lin Qing heard the loss of his daughter, who was grief-stricken, his eyes widened, and he said in disbelief. "Really, ma'am?" Lin Jing continued. "Little jelly is fine, let's go down and see." Seeing Lin Jing's affirmative eyes, Lin Qing stood up abruptly and ran downstairs. On the way, he even lost one of the high heels on his feet. Afterwards, Lin Qing simply took off the shoe on the other foot and ran downstairs barefoot. Seeing this, Lin Jing, who followed behind, quickly picked up Lin Qing's shoes and shouted, "Sister, your shoes." Soon, the barefoot Lin Qing came downstairs in a few minutes, saw the crying daughter in the arms of the shopping mall manager, and then his eyes were filled with tears, and he exclaimed in surprise, "Little jelly." "Mama." Seeing Lin Qing, the crying little jelly immediately stretched out her hands and shouted, "Little jelly, be good, don't cry, it's all bad." Lin Qing took her daughter, hugged her in his arms, and comforted her repeatedly, especially when her daughter passed by the god of death. Lin Qing couldn't help but hug her closer, and there were tears in his eyes. "By the way, manager, hello, is the person who rescued my daughter still there? I want to thank you in person." Seeing that his daughter was safe and sound, after Lin Qing calmed her down, he suddenly remembered the person who had just rescued his daughter, and he had to thank him. He quickly wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes and asked, "Should go?" The mall manager replied. After all, several minutes had passed. "Where did he go?" Lin Qing then asked. "The gate of the mall." The mall manager pointed. Lin Qing thanked him and hurriedly chased after him. When Lu Qing came to the gate of the shopping mall, he just told Lu Xun to stay where he was, but he was dumbfounded. He saw Lu Xun still there, and even the bags for clothes and trousers were gone. Seeing this, Lu Qing suddenly became apprehensive. Where did Lu Xun go? Seeing that Lu Xun was gone, the anxious Lu Qing immediately searched for her like crazy, calling her name everywhere. Originally, Lu Qing planned to ask the security guards standing at the door, but when he saw that, because of the little girl just now, the security guards at the door all left and gathered inside. In desperation, Lu Qing could only search on his own, especially on the ground floor, where Lu Xingang stayed within a few hundred meters, and all the corners were not spared, but Lu Qing still found nothing and found no figure of Lu Xun. Especially after several minutes had passed, Lu Qing's heart became more anxious. Did Xingxin go outside? Seeing the pedestrians entering and exiting the gate of the mall, Lu Qing suddenly thought, after all, Lu Xun was not found here, so Lu Xun might have gone outside the mall. Thought of this, Lu Xun's heart suddenly raised his throat. Because the street is crowded with people, the flow of people is more than 10 times larger than in the shopping mall. If Lu Xun encounters bad people or some other accident, Lu Qing can't imagine it. Lu Qing immediately walked out of the gate of the mall, came to the square at the entrance, and looked around to check. Why are there so many people around there? Taking a look around the square, Lu Qing didn't find Lu Xun, but in the center of the square, that is, right in front of the gate, Lu Qing saw a large group of people surrounding there, and couldn't help but feel a little puzzled, and hurried away past. Through the crowd, Lu Qing saw a little girl with a ponytail on her head, a pink t-shirt on her body and a pair of luminous sandals on her feet. There were several clothes and pants piled up in a mess beside her feet. The bag, this little girl is not Lu Xun who is. After finding Lu Xun, Lu Qing originally mentioned the heart in the throat, but he let it go, and he couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. What are you doing here in your heart? Because of being blocked, Lu Qing saw that Lu Xun was sitting on a ponytail at this time, holding a plate in his left hand and a pen in his right hand, and was a little puzzled. Xingxin is painting. When the person in front of him moved slightly, Lu Qing could see clearly that Lu Xun was painting, but there was a drawing board in front of Lu Xun. Hey, who is this old man? Lu Qing's gaze shifted to the left, and then he saw Lu Xun's left hand, an old man in his early 60s wearing a gray t-shirt with gray hair, hard drawing. Lu Qing stood outside the crowd and couldn't see what Lu Xun was painting, so he quickly squeezed in, came behind Lu Xun and the old man, and looked at it carefully. What is Xingxin drawing? Well, Lu Qing took a look at the colorful canvases, and Lu Xun kept dipping paint on it. Lu Qing's brows suddenly wrinkled into a Sichuan character. Because Lu Qing couldn't understand what Lu Xun was painting at all. As for the old man sitting on the ground next to Lu Xun, seeing Lu Xun's drawing bit by bit, he nodded, and a satisfied smile slowly appeared on his face. Could it be that Lu Xun is really good at drawing? Seeing this, Lu Qing couldn't help but wonder. Lu Qing found Lu Xun and did not bother her, but asked her to paint seriously. After all, this was the first time Lu Qing saw Lu Xun paint. A few minutes passed. When Lu Xun painted the last paint, he stopped immediately. It is good. The old man beside him slapped Lu Xun and applauded loudly when he saw that Lu Xun had finished painting. As for the onlookers, when they saw Lu Xun's work, they all nodded and applauded, and then slapped them. As for Lu Qing, seeing Lu Xun's work seems to be the starry sky in this night sky. Although I can't understand the oil painting, I don't know how to appreciate it, but seeing everyone say it's good, it shows that Lu Xun's painting is really good. Especially as Lu Xun's father, Lu Qing feels very happy and proud. Thank you all. Although Lu Xun was only 3 years old, but seeing everyone applauding her, she quickly stood up and bowed her waist politely. Baba. Then, Lu Xun, who turned around, saw Lu Qing standing in front of him, and said in surprise, he rushed over and hugged Lu Qing's thigh. Xin, why are you staying here? Lu Qing touched Lu Xun's head and asked. Baba, I'm sorry, I made you worry. Hearing Lu Qing's question, Lu Xun remembered Lu Qing's advice just now, so she lowered her head, squeezed her hands, and said apologetically. It turned out that Lu Xun was bored at the gate just now. Then she looked around and saw a grandfather painting in front of the gate. She was originally interested in painting. Come to the grandfather who is painting. It was the first time that the old man saw such a young child look so serious, so he asked Lu Xun to paint. He didn't expect Lu Xun to really know how to paint, and he didn't have stage fright. That's why this scene happened. My heart is good, Baba, I'm not angry with you. Seeing Lu Xun's fleshy little face, full of sadness and self-blame, he quickly comforted him. Really? Lu Xun's eyes lit up when he heard it, and he said in disbelief. Of course it's true. Lu Qing smiled and affirmed, and since you are so good at painting, Baba should praise you. After Lu Xun heard this, Little Face said happily, Baba, you are so kind. At this moment, the old man on the side spoke, looked at Lu Qing with a smile and said, Hello, young man, I think your daughter is very talented in painting. I want to accept him as a close disciple. I hope can you agree? Close disciple. Hearing this, Lu Qing looked at the old man with some doubts. When the old man saw this, he hurriedly bent down and took a card from his bag. He almost never gave out a business card to others, and handed it to Lu Qing. This is my business card, young man, you can take a look. Lu Qing took a look at the business card and saw that the front of the business card was very simple and had 3 big characters, Liang Chusheng. However, when Lu Qing turned the business card over and saw the back, his eyes widened and he couldn't believe it. How can that be? Honorary Vice President of China Calligraphers and Painters Association. Honorary Vice President of China Academy of Fine Arts. Honorary Dean of the Magic City Academy of Fine Arts. Quote. Seeing the resounding titles on the back of this business card, Lu Qing was stunned. In particular, the word honor is enough to indicate a person's authority in certain fields, or a highly respected position. Painter. Great painter. After seeing these resounding names, such a word suddenly popped into Lu Qing's mind, and he is the top painter in China. Especially the old man in front of him, wearing a white cultural shirt, a pair of shorts underneath, a pair of slippers on his feet, and a palm fan in his hand. It's hard to associate him with an artist with artistic temperament because he is dressed like a neighbor who enjoys the shade. Although he was a little skeptical, after taking the business card and looking at it, Lu Qing said respectfully, Master, do you really want to accept my family as your disciple? After all, when such a master of painting suddenly accepted his daughter as his apprentice, Lu Qing felt that he still had to ask more. Did I say why this young man is such a mother-in-law? The old man Liang said, I'm looking at your daughter. She was born to be a material for painting. I just wanted to love her for a while, so I plan to accept her as a closed disciple. So you agree or not? Mr. Liang said again. Yes, yes, Lu Qing hurriedly agreed upon hearing this. Although I don't know whether the names of the old man in front of me have water, but after all, it is related to the talent of the daughter, or the future, Lu Qing decided to agree first and talk. By the way, Xingxin, do you want to learn to draw with this old grandpa? After all, it was her daughter Lu Xin who learned to paint, and she had to agree to it, so Lu Qing hurriedly smiled and asked Lu Xin, who was standing in front of her. Baba, after learning to draw, won't I be able to read? When Lu Xin heard this, he suddenly said with some embarrassment. Although Lu Xin likes to draw very much, she also likes to read, which makes it difficult for the little girl to decide for a while. When Lu Qing heard it, she didn't know how to answer. Of course you can read. Little darling. At this moment, Mr. Liang, who was beside him, crouched down, looked at Lu Xin, and said kindly, who said that you can't read if you learn to draw? Really, Grandpa? When Lu Xin heard this, her big watery eyes couldn't believe it. Of course it's true, darling, Mr. Liang said with certainty. Speaking of which, Mr. Liang stood up, looked at Lu Qing and said, send her to me every week in the future, or I can ask my daughter to come and pick her up, it won't delay her going to school at all. Also, learning to draw is not like children learning to write. You have to teach each stroke by stroke. It's all about talent. I teach little girl, but it's actually a little bit of fur, and she mainly depends on her. Then, Mr. Liang said solemnly. Yeah, Lu Qing nodded thoughtfully. By the way, old man, Lu Xin learned to paint with you. What about this apprenticeship ceremony? What about tuition fees? Look. This is what Lu Qing suddenly thought of. After all, it seems that there is such a process to learn art from a teacher, but Lu Qing does not understand this at all. When old Master Liang heard this, he glared at Lu Qing and said, old-fashioned, what's the age now? You still need to pay attention to these things. Let me tell you that you don't need any tuition fees for the apprenticeship ceremony. She eats whatever we eat. Why are you so embarrassed? Lu Qing said, a little embarrassed. What's wrong? Mr. Liang said. Okay, you add my WeChat and phone number to your mobile phone. It's getting late, I should go home. Having said that, Lu Qing and Mr. Liang exchanged contact information. Goodbye, little darling. Afterwards, Lu Qing and Lu Xin helped the old man to pack up the drawing tools such as drawing boards and paints, and put them in the bag, and then the old man Liang smiled and said, Goodbye, Grandpa. Lu Xin replied sweetly, Let's go, it's time for us to go home. Lu Qing said to Lu Xin, who was beside him, watching Mr. Liang disappear into the alley on the other side of the square with his drawing tools on his back. Yeah, Lu Xin nodded. Then the father and daughter carried the bags with clothes and pants in them and walked to the parking place on the road ahead. Xingxin, did that Grandpa Liang draw really nice just now? Lu Qing asked as he walked. Well, Lu Xin thought for a while and replied, I don't know, I think Grandpa Liang is better at drawing than our teacher. After all, Lu Xin is only in contact with the classmates and the teacher is the best at painting. Lu Qing nodded. Afterwards, Lu Qing and his daughter came to the parked car and opened the door to get in the car. At this time, inside the mall, Lin Qing came to the gate with little Jelly in his arms, looking around for the person who saved his daughter just now. But seeing this vast stranger, Lin Qing remembered that he didn't know the face of the person who saved his daughter just now. Baba. The little Jelly in her arms saw Lu Qing's back in the distance, but she seemed extremely happy and excited, pointing out. But Lin Qing didn't notice the abnormality of the little Jelly in his arms, but carried her into the mall, ready to ask the mall and retrieve the surveillance video just now. After all, he saved his daughter's life. Lin Qing felt that he had to thank him in person no matter what. Hit that person. In the car. Hiss. A little worried, Lu Qing took out his mobile phone and searched for Mr. Liang. He found that he didn't know if he didn't read it. When he saw it, he was startled. Mr. Liang was a master of calligraphy and painting, a famous domestic painter, and the tallest painting. It sold for a sky-high price of nearly 20 million. Seeing this, Lu Qing couldn't help but gasp. I didn't expect Xingxin's luck to be so good. When I came here to buy clothes, I actually worshipped a great painter as my teacher, haha. After reading it, Lu Qing burst out laughing and started the car to go home. Evening. A bright moon quietly revealed its head. In Lu Xin's room, Lu Qing sat beside the bed, tightened the air-conditioning quilt covering Lu Xin's body tightly, and said softly to her, "Good night, Xingxin." "Well, Baba, good night." After returning from the shopping mall, Lu Xin, who had finished washing up and lay obediently on the bed, replied with a tired face, and after speaking, Lu Xin obediently closed her eyes. Seeing this, Lu Qing turned off the lights and walked out of the room lightly. "Let's go, you two little fellows." After arriving in the living room, Lu Qing took out his mobile phone and checked the time. It was already 9 o'clock and it was time to leave for the warehouse, so he faced Xiaobai and Xiao Hidao at his feet. Because the watermelon delivered to Li Tian's company was just over 10 million caddies yesterday, and there are still more than 10 million caddies left, so Lu Qing is now going to the warehouse to plant the remaining watermelons and deliver them. Having said that, Lu Qing took Xiaobai and Xiaohe out and went downstairs and drove to the warehouse. After half an hour, Lu Qing drove the car to the warehouse, then parked the car, got out of the car with Xiaobai and Xiaohe, walked into the warehouse, and then moved into the space, first fed the 4 koi in the pool, and then went crazy to plant watermelons. Time passed by minute. Finally all the plants are finished. When the last bag of watermelon seeds was planted and harvested and moved to the outside warehouse, Lu Qing breathed a sigh of relief. After a while, the watermelon consignment vehicles arranged by Tiantianyuan Company continued to drive in. Lu Qing handed over to the manager in charge, and everyone started working in full swing. The next day, although he had been busy in the warehouse for nearly 11 hours without sleep, and only returned home at 7 o'clock in the morning, Lu Qing returned home, glanced that Lu Xin was still asleep, and immediately went into the space to catch up. The bed made of lobular rosewood logs in the space was made by Lu Qing in the warehouse before he came back. Because the more than 10 million caddies of watermelons were transported away by Tiantianyuan Company's vehicles, Lu Qing and Tiantianyuan Company's contract delivery volume had been completely completed, and then they were waiting to receive the money. Now that the warehouse is empty, Lu Qing immediately put Hainan Wanghuili, lobular red sandalwood, golden nanmu and other wood materials in the warehouse. But after all, I didn't sleep all night, and the flow rate of time in the space was 30 times. Lu Qing thought about making up a few hours of sleep in the space. The outside world has only passed a few minutes, but there is no bed in the space, so Lu Qing used the lobular red sandalwood logs built it. Holding the pillow, Lu Qing slept in the space for 8 hours before he woke up satisfied. Then he came out of the space and looked at the time. It was almost 7:20 outside. Lu Qing knew that it was too late to make breakfast at this time. After all, Lu Xin had to go to school at 8 o'clock, so she could only eat breakfast outside. Lu Qing hurriedly came to Lu Xin's room and asked her to get up and get dressed. "Baba, I want to squeeze the toothpaste myself." After getting dressed, Lu Xin followed Lu Qing to the bathroom, and then saw Lu Qing taking out the toothpaste and toothbrush, and hurriedly said, "Okay, come on by yourself." When Lu Qing heard this, he handed all the toothbrush and toothpaste in his hand to Lu Xin, and reminded, "Don't squeeze too much." Lu Xin nodded, only to see her fleshy little hands, carefully and gently, squeezed out a small section of toothpaste to cover the toothbrush. She squeezed not only the toothbrush on Lu Xin's toothbrush, but also the toothpaste on Lu Qing's toothbrush. Hey. After squeezing, Lu Xin brushed up earnestly, looking at himself in the mirror who was brushing his teeth and Lu Qing standing behind him with a smile on his face. "Let's go, Xingxin, the hair is ready, let's go out for breakfast." A few minutes later, after brushing his teeth and washing his face, he sat on the sofa again, and carefully combed Lu Xin a nice little braid. Lu Qing said with satisfaction, "Well, Baba, I want fried dough sticks and soy milk." When Lu Xin heard breakfast outside, her eyes lit up and she said in a glutinous voice, "Can." Lu Qing smiled and nodded in agreement. After putting on shoes, Lu Qing, Lu Xin, father and daughter, and Xiaobai and Xiaohe, went out for breakfast together. After breakfast, Lu Qing took Lu Xin to the door of the kindergarten, then squatted down, tidied up her clothes, and said, "Go in, Xingxin, be obedient." Lu Xin nodded obediently, and then walked into the kindergarten. Let's go, Xiaobai Xiaohei. Lu Qing looked at Xiaobai and Xiaohei in front of him, staring blankly at the direction where Lu Xin disappeared, and said. When Xiaobai and Xiaohei heard it, they turned around, followed Lu Qing with their heads and tails, and walked to the parking lot on the roadside. Is there anyone who sells piglets in this magic capital? Lu Qing brought Xiaobai and Xiaohei to the car and started to search for a place selling piglets in the magic capital. Hearing what Lu Xin said last night, the vegetables are delicious, but the meat is not good. Lu Qing thought about buying some piglets and putting them in the space to feed them. So Lu Qing took out his mobile phone and searched. Songjiang Sanmu Pig Farm. Soon Lu Qing found a pig farm selling piglets. Hey, hello, is this manager Luo of Sanmu Pig Farm? Then Lu Qing called according to the contact number of the pig farm, and asked, do you have piglets for sale in your pig farm now? Yes, right, it starts from 2, okay, then I'll drive over to buy it now, okay. Okay, see you later. As soon as Lu Qing heard that, there were piglets for sale at the pig farm, so he quickly started the car and went there. After all, Lu Qing's location is nearly 80 kilometers away from the pig farm. After an hour and a half, the fast-moving Lu Qing drove to the gate of Sanmu Pig Farm. Hello, my name is Lu Qing. I'm buying piglets. I've contacted your manager Luo. In front of the electric fence, Lu Qing said to the guard in the security booth. After the doorman called to confirm, the electric fence was opened and Lu Qing was allowed in. Then, Lu Qing followed manager Luo's instructions to the parking space in Area A, and saw a fat middle-aged man waiting for him. Hello, are you manager Luo? After parking the car, Lu Qing took Xiaobai and Xiaohei to open the door, came to the fat middle-aged man, and asked uncertainly. Are you Lu Qing? Manager Luo asked rhetorically. Yes, manager Luo. Lu Qing replied quickly. Then please come with me. Manager Luo said, I just heard on the phone that you are planning to buy 2, right? Well, yes, Lu Qing nodded, because after all, there are only 2 people in the magic capital, he and Lu Xin. No matter how they grow up, they will have 200 or 300 pounds, enough for Lu Qing and Lu Xin to eat for a month or 2, but the pig farm must buy at least 2 to start, otherwise, Lu Qing may just plan to buy a piglet. Then, Lu Qing followed closely behind manager Luo. Did you bring a small puppy here? Manager Luo took Lu Qing to the outermost room, which was similar to a factory building, and noticed the little white and black gangster behind Lu Qing. That's right, our pig farm does not allow other small animals to enter it, they can only stay in this room. Then manager Luo reminded very solemnly. This is no problem, Lu Qing responded quickly. Immediately, Lu Qing turned to Xiaobai and Xiaohei and said, you 2 are just here and wait for me, I'll be out in a while. After finishing speaking, they followed manager Luo and continued to walk inside, while Xiaobai and Xiaohei stayed in place obediently. Do you still need to disinfect? Lu Qing followed manager Luo to a disinfection room and asked with some doubts. Yes, manager Luo hurriedly replied. You must disinfect your whole body and put on our operating clothes before you can enter the production area of the pig farm and check the piglets. All go. Our pig farm's so strict now. When Lu Qing heard this, she couldn't help but exclaimed. But in the end, Lu Qing obediently disinfected his entire body, and then changed into the operation clothes provided by the pig farm. Wow, there are so many pigs in here. After the final disinfection, Lu Qing, who changed into operating clothes, and manager Luo came to the production area of the pig farm and saw thousands of white and plump piglets in one pen after another. At this time, manager Luo pointed to a piglet marked as column number 5 and said, this litter of piglets is ready to be slaughtered, you can choose whatever you want, there are numbers on its ears, just tell me if you choose it. After a while, our staff will weigh the piglets you selected and put them in your car. You only need to go to the finance room at the door to pay. Manager Luo continued. Okay, Lu Qing nodded in response. Then he turned his head and watched as the piglets in the pig pen had been selected, but these piglets were all about the same size, so Lu Qing picked 2 at random. After selecting, Lu Qing told manager Luo the code. Let's go, wait outside, get it done in a few minutes, and put it on your car. When manager Luo heard this, he said to Lu Qing. Then he took off his operating clothes, and Lu Qing followed Manager Luo outside. By the way, Manager Luo, does your company breed chickens and ducks? Outside the factory, Lu Qing asked with the attitude of giving it a try. After all, it was not worth it to buy 2 piglets and go back. Yes. When Manager Luo heard this, he quickly said, "Don't look at our company's brand name for raising pigs. In fact, our company is cultivating any kind of poultry cubs." Really? Lu Qing's eyes lit up when he heard it. He didn't expect it to exist, so he hurriedly asked, "Can you take me to see it?" "Sure." Manager Luo nodded and said, "Chicken and duck are all here." Later, Lu Qing followed Manager Luo to pick chickens and ducks. In the end, I bought 2 piglets, 20 chickens and 20 ducks, which cost a total of 2,300 yuan. After paying the money in the finance room, Lu Qing greeted Manager Luo next to him. Immediately, Lu Qing took Xiaobai and Xiaohei into the car and drove back. "Hey, Brother Li." After galloping all the way and returning home, Lu Qing's mobile phone suddenly rang. He took it out and saw that it was called by Li Wei from the 4S shop yesterday. Lu Qing hurriedly connected the channel. "Hello, Brother Lu." Li Wei on the other end of the phone said succinctly, "Your license plate has been photographed, look at your side, come and pick it up when you are free." So soon. Lu Qing was a little surprised to hear that. After all, I just bought the car yesterday afternoon, and the 4th shop helped me take a photo of the license plate in the morning. You must know that this is a magic capital with a population of several thousand. Hey. On the phone, Li Wei smiled mysteriously, "What's so fast?" 2. Lu Qing understood immediately after hearing it. After all, the relationship channels of other 4S stores are different. Then, Lu Qing looked at the time and found that it was 11:30. He decided to eat lunch before picking it up. He immediately thanked him. "Thank you, Brother Li, I'll come and pick it up in the afternoon." After a few more greetings, Lu Qing hung up the phone. As for the 2 little piglets that I just bought, and the dozens of chickens and ducks, Lu Qing had already put them in the space on the way back, and planted a lot of green leaves for them to eat. Enter. However, Lu Qing was still a little worried. After hanging up the phone, his mind moved and he entered the space. Because Lu Qing is in the outside world, he can't control everything in the space. Lu Qing is worried that they are wandering around in the space, eating the ginseng grown, or taking a bath in the space pool, polluting the water source. Okay, think about it yourself. However, after entering the space, Lu Qing saw that he was thinking too much. I saw that in front of the green cabbage leaves piled up like a hill, 2 fat white piglets were curling their tails, chewing their mouths, enjoying the green cabbage leaves, while the dozens of chickens and the little ducks were similar, forming a circle, surrounded by green leaves, and happily ate them. Afterwards, after looking around and feeling relieved, Lu Qing exited the space and prepared to make lunch. When he came to the kitchen, Lu Qing opened the refrigerator and found that there was no rice or cold dishes. Then he remembered that he had fed Xiaobai and Xiaohei the rest of the food he ate last night. "Would you like to cook some noodles for lunch?" After thinking about it for a while, Lu Qing took out a handful of dry noodles from the refrigerator, boiled half a catty for himself, then fried 2 omelets, and ate it with a big mouth. Comfortable. In the hot summer, after eating a big bowl of noodles, Lu Qing was sweating profusely, and he was so comfortable. After eating, drinking and resting for a while, Lu Qing was going to go out to the Ford's store to get the license plate, and also drove back the old car parked in front of their store and gave it back to the best friend Grasshopper. After all, this car belongs to their hotel. Since I bought a new car, I have to return the car as soon as possible. You 2 stay at home this afternoon. Seeing that Lu Qing was about to go out, Xiaobai and Xiaohei hurriedly ran in front and waited in front of the door. Seeing this, Lu Qing said to the 2 little guys. Because he had to go to the 4S store to pick up the license plate and car, and then return the car to Grasshopper, Lu Qing planned to take a taxi, and it was inconvenient to bring Xiaobai and Xiaohei. When Xiaobai and Xiaohei heard it, they obediently returned to their nests. Then Lu Qing opened the door and went downstairs, came to the side of the road, waved to a taxi, and rushed to the Ford's store. Half an hour later, Lu Qing came to the Ford's store and exchanged a few words with Li Wei. Then, holding the new license plate, he came to the place where the old car was parked outside the store, opened the door and got in the car, then started the car and left. In the car, after checking the time, it was almost 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Lu Qing immediately drove to his best friend, Grasshopper, intending to return the car. An hour later, Lu Qing arrived at the hotel where his best friend Grasshopper worked, and parked the car in the original position in the basement. "Hey, Grasshopper, are you at work?" After parking the car, Lu Qing dialed the phone number of his best friend Grasshopper with a smile on his face and said, "I'm here to return the car. I just parked the car. Are you free? Come down and talk for a while." "What, didn't you go to work today?" Lu Qing listened to the Grasshopper's low voice on the other end of the phone. Something was wrong, and immediately asked worriedly, "Hey, little Grasshopper, what's wrong with you? Why is your voice so depressed? Are you all right?" Listening to Grasshopper's answer, Lu Qing said with some anxiety, "Little Grasshopper, why don't I come to find you now?" "No, no need." Hearing the Grasshopper hurriedly refused on the phone, Lu Qing just said helplessly, "Okay." Then, Lu Qing quickly reminded, "Little Grasshopper, what's the matter? You have to tell me, don't hold it in your heart, I will help if I can help." All right, that's it." Finally, after a few more chats, Grasshopper hung up the phone first. And Lu Qing was holding the phone and became a little worried. What the hell happened to the Grasshopper? After all, the Grasshopper's voice has always been cheerful and optimistic, and it has never been so depressed as it is today. Could it be that this kid is in conflict with Qin Lu? Lu Qing suddenly thought. Qin Lu is Grasshopper's girlfriend, and the two have a very good relationship, and Lu Qing heard Grasshopper say that they plan to go back to their hometown to get married by the end of this year. Hey, forget it, don't think about it. Unable to figure it out, Lu Qing had no choice but to set it up, then glanced at the time, and found that it was time for Lu Xun to get back from school, and Lu Qing walked out of the basement, went outside the hotel, and took a taxi back. 10-page M. After Lu Qing told Lu Xun a fairy tale, she kissed Lu Xun's forehead lightly, and said, "Good night, Xingxin." Yeah, Lu Xun nodded, closed his eyes, and fell asleep. Then Lu Qing came to the living room, checked the time, and got ready to sleep. At this moment, Lu Qing's phone suddenly rang. Lu Qing picked it up and saw that it was called by his best friend Grasshopper. Lu Qing answered the channel. "Hey, Grasshopper, do you want to drink?" "Old place, right, okay, I'll be right over here." Hearing the Grasshopper on the other end of the phone calling for drinking, Lu Qing quickly agreed. Of course, the more important circle is that Lu Qing wanted to go and see what happened to the Grasshopper, because Lu Qing listened to the Grasshopper's voice very wrong. After hanging up the phone, Lu Qing hurriedly went out and drove to the Grasshopper. The old place where Lu Qing and his best friend Grasshopper drink is actually in a small alley next to the night market. Two aunts and aunts in their early 60s set up a few tables, mainly selling cold pot skewers. Gallop all the way. After spending more than half an hour, Lu Qing arrived at the place. "Hey, young man, you are finally here. Please persuade your friend. One person has already drank almost 2 cases of beer. If he wants to drink, I will not give it." Seeing Lu Qing coming, the stall owner sighed. "Yeah," Lu Qing nodded, then walked towards the table where Grasshopper was sitting. When he came to Grasshopper's table, Lu Qing saw Grasshopper who was very drunk. Beside him, there were more than a dozen empty wine bottles. Looking at the Grasshopper in front of him with a shaggy beard, a depressed face and lifeless eyes, like a completely changed person, Lu Qing hurriedly asked, "What happened to you, Qinger? You are here." Hearing Lu Qing's voice, Guo Guo raised his head and forced a smile on his face. "Hey, Grasshopper, what the hell is going on here?" Seeing Guo Guo with a decadent look in front of him, Lu Qing pulled out a stool and sat down, sighed, and asked in disgust. "It's okay, Qinger," Grasshopper answered lightly. As he said that, he picked up a bottle of beer, poured a glass into his glass, and sighed. Lu Qing looked at the dozen or so empty wine bottles in front of Guo Guo, and several dishes on the table were still intact. They were just here to drink and drink. He knew there must be something wrong with him, but he refused to say anything. So, Lu Qing looked at Guo Guo and said coldly, "Grasshopper, if you still regard me as your friend, your good brother, you should tell me what happened to you. Look at you. What is it like now?" "I'm fine, Qinger," Guo Guo emphasized. don't worry about me, just want to drink and drink. Guo Guo filled his glass again, and then took another sip. Hearing this, Lu Qing nodded and looked at Guo Guo, who was stubborn. Chinger. Seeing Lu Qing leaving, Guo Guo, who was very drunk, shouted loudly, "Don't go, I said, I broke up with Qin Lu." Hearing this, Lu Qing was stunned and stopped, then quickly returned to the table, pulled the bench over to sit down, looked at Guo Guo, and said in disbelief, "Break up? You and Qin Lu broke up? Isn't the relationship between the couple very good? I plan to go back and get married at the end of the year. I'm talking, the old saying isn't that husband and wife quarrel at the end of the bed, women, just go back and coax more." Lu Qing continued, "Chinger, listen to me, Qin Lu and I have no chance of getting back together." Although Guo Guo drank a lot, but after hearing what Lu Qing said, Guo Guo replied soberly, "She moved all her luggage out this morning." What? Lu Qing's eyes widened. How long has it been? The couple has already reached this point. Hey, that's true. Seeing Lu Qing still in disbelief, Guo Guo affirmed, "The main thing is that I'm too useless." Guo Guo sighed and blamed himself. Qin Lu wants a home, and doesn't want to rent a house outside, ask me to buy a house in this magic capital. Buy house. After hearing this, Lu Qing cried out, "Is Qin Lu crazy? Does she know how high the housing prices are in the magic capital? A small apartment costs 3 or 4 million yuan. She has been talking to you for years. Friends, it's impossible not to even know your family's financial situation, right?" Good guy. When Lu Qing heard it, he felt that this was purely an excuse for this surnamed Qin to break up. After all, Guo Guo's current salary is only in the early 10,000s a month, and his family is just like him in the countryside. How could it be possible to spend so much money to buy a house? Totally crazy. Hey, listen to me. Guo Guo saw that Lu Qing was emotional and reassured. Actually, this house is just an excuse for Qin Lu to break up. As you know, with my financial ability, I can't afford to buy a house without food or drink even for 20 years here in the magic capital. Guo Guo slowly recounted. Since she asked me to buy a house, the two of us have been stuck behind. But I let her, and I didn't pay her a piece rate. What I thought was that I couldn't buy a house in the magic capital, so I went back to my hometown. Buy a house and she won't make trouble. But it's useless. Not only that, she became even more aggressive later. It's useless to criticize me all day long. I can't even buy her a better bag. Saying that, Guo Guo shed tears and cried, "You don't even know what Qin Lu said about the bags, they cost thousands or tens of thousands. My salary is used to pay the rent, and I have to pay for 2 more people. Living expenses, then there is money to buy bags." In the next month or two, Qin Lu stopped talking to me, and then came back with a brand name bag every once in a while. I asked her how she came here, and she didn't tell me. Guo Guo touched his tears and said, "I felt something was wrong, so I ran to ask her colleague. You know that Qin Lu and I are in the same hotel, she is very capable, from the little girl who served the food to the catering department. The manager has a lot of entertainment, and after I asked her colleagues, I learned that she had a hot fight with an old man who could be her father. This person is not a regular customer to eat at our hotel. I don't know why they got stuck together. Later, when Qin Lu saw that I knew about it, he broke up with me directly. He came back this morning and packed her up and moved away. Standing upstairs, I saw with my own eyes that she took her luggage and sat in a $1 million luxury car with a smile." Finally, Guo Guo finally said, "Then you're still crying." When Lu Qing heard it, she didn't expect such a bloody plot to happen to her good buddy and said, "Listen to what you said, this woman is simply an amused vain person, what's there to cry about? Do not." Guo Guo didn't believe it, shook his head and said, "I know Qin Lu is not such a woman. After all, I have talked with her for so many years. I am so sad, mainly because I don't believe that my relationship with her has ended like this." After speaking, Guo Guo cried again, "The main thing is that I am too useless." After speaking, Guo Guo violently picked up a bottle of wine and blew on the bottle. "Stop drinking." When Lu Qing saw it, he quickly snatched the wine from Guo Guo's hand and persuaded him, "Are you going to die? Do not." Guo Guo saw Lu Qing take his wine and said drunkenly, "I still want to drink, Qingzi, I'm not drunk yet, you give me back the wine, I can still drink." Lu Qing didn't give him the wine, but got up and came to Guo Guo, picked him up, put one hand on his shoulder and said, "Let's go, I'll take you back." "No, I won't go back, Qin Lu will be gone." At this time, Guo Guo, who was completely drunk, could not walk steadily, and said, "I still want to drink." "Drink ass." Of course Lu Qing didn't agree. After paying the money, he just dragged Guo Guo to his parking spot. If Lu Qing often drank the pool water in the space, his strength would have become several times stronger. Otherwise, Guo Guo's 180-pound body would not be able to drag him at all. Put Guo Guo into his car and sit down. Lu Qing breathed a sigh of relief, then got in the car, started the car and left. Lu Qing didn't send Guo Guo back to where he lived, but drove home. After all, Guo Guo was drinking too much. Lu Qing was worried about what would happen if he sent him back alone. "Why don't you call Grasshopper to sell fruit together?" The car quickly drove past the trees beside the road. Lu Qing looked at the co-pilot. Guo Guo, who was drunk and full of alcohol, cried and laughed for a while, Lu Qing thought. After all, Guo Guo is like this, the biggest reason is that he is under too much pressure and has no money. And now I have space with me, and I have the ability to help him, such as growing fruit to sell, and giving him a commission for the money he sells every day, which is more than several times higher than his salary as a chef in a hotel. As for directly giving money to Guo Guo, Lu Qing knew that if they did that, neither of their friends and buddies would have to do it. "Well, tell him tomorrow morning," Lu Qing decided in his heart, and immediately accelerated the gas pedal and went home. Guo Guo, who was on the side, closed his eyes and fell asleep after talking nonsense, which was convenient for Lu Qing to carry Guo Guo back to his home. He took out the mat and put it on the ground. Lu Qing put Guo Guo on it, and then ran to the bathroom to take a shower. "Hey, sleep." A few minutes later, when he came out of the shower, Lu Qing saw Guo Guo on the mat sleeping soundly. He could not help but sighed in relief, then turned off the lights and went to sleep. The next day, morning, Guo Guo, who woke up, heard Lu Qing ask him to follow him to sell fruit. His eyes widened, and he asked in disbelief. "What, you want me to go and sell fruit in the streets? I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more."